Hello, folks. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. As always, my name is Tudor Theo, and I'm back with the 80th episode of Keeping It Realistic, that show that we do in collaboration with Chaos, and which is very much dedicated to and even broadcasted live on the Chaos campus. And what's more, this is that show that aims to provide you with insights and knowledge that you don't get anywhere else unless you're paid for it, of course. So welcome to the first episode for this July and also our 80th altogether. It's a big round number that we are celebrating here, and we'll do this with a very real, genuine, and inspiring talk today. I see you're already here for it. Francesco, Daniel, Amit, such a pleasure to have you here, my friends. Always a pleasure that you're here. But also shout out to those of you who watch the recordings later, as many of you tend to do. I hope you enjoy this session a lot. Now, as you know, despite our interior exercise, the apartment in Germany still going until the end of November, with the previous episode of Keeping It Realistic, which featured Daniel Diaz de Castillo, he's in the comments. We officially ended the series focused on interior design and interior visualization that we were doing since the beginning of the year. So now it's time for us to shift gears, zoom out a bit, and take a look at some other aspects of our industry and the industry itself. And I gotta say that after attending 2 consecutive major live events within last month, it was the IWI in the Netherlands in the beginning of June and the World Viz Fest in Poland like 2 weeks ago. And after chatting with tons of different people, from artists to developers, educators, studio founders, industry leaders, one thing became very, very apparent to me. And this is something which I'm very happy. This won't be probably a big surprise to all of you, but I wanted to make sure that this is not a type of chaos bubble type of thing, but this is also the reality outside the Chaos Campus, for the reality for big and small studios, for freelancers, for single artists. And this reality is that there is no certainty, no clear perspective, and no consensus about the future of our industry. Where some see potentials and chances, others envision the end of their creative journeys. And then there is also this pretty large group which is standing somewhere in the middle, trying to figure it all out and see if it makes sense to continue, or in case they're in the very beginning of their career, to even start a career in a creative industry. The thing is, though, that even though this may be something new to some of you, factually, this isn't the first time that our industry or the world in general is going through a rough patch in the recent years. So it's not even 20 years ago that we had a global financial crisis, and it's merely 6 years ago that the global pandemic started, because it also had a run for a few years after that. And we still all are around, aren't we? The truth, my personal truth, is that uncertainty, turbulences, ups and downs belong to a career exactly as much as they belong to life. But at the same time, I also believe that driven by passion and with enough persistence, one can overcome even the most difficult of times and still come out on top in the end. My guest today is a perfect example for this, and luckily for us, he's willing to open up and tell us his story of surviving a yo-yo career. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me straight from London, Sir Nigel Hunt. Hello, Nigel. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Theo. That was a great introduction. I enjoyed that. And congratulations on 80 years. I'd say 80 episodes. 80 episodes.
80 years would be even better, but yeah, I don't think I'll make it that far. But yeah, 80 episodes so far. Thank you very much. And by the way, in the meantime, there are many in the audience, including many people that you know, like Ioana and Vieko, Amit, of course, Anna, and so many just being here to hear your story. And it's a great pleasure to have you here. I think the idea for this episode was born a while ago, actually, probably last year after our business special. But it feels like now is the right time.
Wasn't that earlier this year?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. But it's like something that we wanted to do for a while now, but I think that now is the right time to do it. And yeah, in the beginning of the shows, I usually ask my guests to introduce themselves, share their creative journey with us. And after that, we dive into the topic that they are going to be talking about. In this specific case, however, your journey is the topic. So please tell us, how did you survive a long-lasting yo-yo career with all of its ups and downs and still manage to remain relevant, to remain inspired and curious after all these years?
Let's take the word survive out because
Survive,
it's
yeah. This
it's
word came from you.
yeah, it did come from me, and I apologize, but that was off the record. I think it's you. I've got a lot to talk about today, if I'm allowed.
Mm,
So really, let
absolutely.
me just, if I bring this up. So my
Yes,
talk, if some of you, can you see that?
of course. And I'll make
Yeah.
you large so that everybody sees
Oh,
Forrest Gump on the bench.
okay. So my talk today may feel like some of you who have watched Forrest Gump. It may seem fictitious. It may seem unreal. But that really is, I guess, what happens when, you've been in the industry for through 35 years. I guess, the beginning of the 1990s, which I guess is the beginning of architectural computer graphics, maybe. But
Yeah,
it's,
pretty much.
yeah, yeah. You'd say so. I really start. I was. I mean, look at me. I'm old. Um, I didn't want to
Oh,
get into architecture. In fact, I come from New Zealand, and the my father was an architect. We had big family business. He he expected that I was going to take over the business. Come on, son, train as an architect. That that this business is going to be yours. But I guess for a lot of us when we're young, it's the thought of just jumping straight into work and having all that responsibility. I didn't want any of it. I was a DJ. You can let me try and do this. Here we are over here.
yeah.
I was DJing. I was organizing big. Let's bring this up. Um, I'll come jump onto that slide in a second. Here we go. Um, that's me.
The hair,
And
the hair. So good.
that's 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 what happens. You end up looking like this, but back in your 20s, you know, I grew my hair long. I'd all sorts. I I was a bit of a chameleon. I kept changing looks, but yeah, I was organizing big, massive parties in New Zealand. Um, the the last one that we put on had so much PA equipment. We hired out more PA equipment than U2 did on their global tour, and when they came to New Zealand, and the people that we hired from it, like, are you sure you want that much stuff? But we were right into it. So we were also at the time into, I suppose, what became VJing, the visual side of it, because that was all part of the experience. The reason I talk about all this is because what happened back then leads on to what happens now in community, and how to bringing people together and really enjoying that experience of pulling people together and watching them have a good time. Anyway, so
Community
Theo,
has
how
been important to you since the very beginning, it seems, bringing people together.
Well, it should be important to everyone because as a human, this is part of the human condition is socializing and being with your friends, being with your family. We don't survive as a species without community, and it's I think what my talk today or our discussion will touch on off and on is the experiences of what it's like to if you end up, you're working from home or you're isolated. Um, we now talk about this as mental health, but it's not healthy. You've got to get out to conferences, you've got to get out to meetup groups, etc. Anyway, so I was doing all this back in the early 1990s. Got to remember, this is before the internet. This is before social media, before mobile phones. So everything was done with flyers, and it was really, really, we'll call it the analog days. It was great fun. Um, Organizing things such as the whole sort of visual side of stuff, that was all analog. That then had to be put onto film. It had to be projected onto walls, etc. So I was really into that. And then it's because of the passion. This is back in New Zealand. The last big rave we put on, we made enough money to come to the UK, and this is during the early 1990s when the UK was going through its rave generation, and they had big parties, M25 parties. For those of you, you may not know about them, but they're all illegal. They were all great fun. Um, so we attended that. We got really into it. And then I thought, I've got to get work. I've got to get a job. It's that I was working for Sega at the time, in the
Oh,
sort of,
what were you doing for sake?
told you there's going to be a whole backstory to what you don't. I was working in the technical division. Um, I had no computer skills. I didn't know how to use a computer. I was working on the customer service side of things. Just people would send their mega drives in, and da da da. It was all Sonic Hedgehog days. So I was working with the technical team. Repairs would come in, would send them back, and then I thought I need to get back into work. I quite like this burgeoning industry, this computer industry where they're making graphics. We've been making analog graphics, and suddenly here's what you can do this on a computer, and so I started to go to night school to learn. First of all, my dad was pressuring me to come back to New Zealand, come back, join the firm, and I was like, no way am I going back to New Zealand. And so go to night school. First studied, had learned how to use 2D CAD, AutoCAD. And then that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Back in the last years of college, in the very, very last years studying architecture, AutoCAD came in, and we laughed and laughed at this awful technology. Remember, we had been using drawing boards. We could draw, an A1 sheet
Yeah.
in in I I can't even remember. You might better do a drawing in a day, but here we were trying to learn AutoCAD, and we just thought this is never going to take off. It's like it took you. It felt like 10 minutes to draw like I don't know a rectangle. So we just ignored it. Fast forward to sort of the early 1992. And in the UK, it's a recession. I was working at the Sega and then studying, and I went straight from 2D. I thought that's fine. Yeah, done that. Straight into learning 3D CAD. And then that then led me into a 3D job in a construction firm. And that lasted a few years. And then this is before BIM. And then suddenly people started to do more and more 3D building making, um, which led again, internet's not invented yet. Um, and so I ended up being, fast forward to around 1998. I was the first person to review what is Revit now in 3D World magazine. I didn't think much of it at the time. I didn't, because I'd learned in 1993, I'd learned 3D Studio DOS, the DOS version 2 or 3, I think. So I was well into 3D by now. Um, I've been freelancing over here, over this side, freelancing at a bunch of places all through London. And then in 1996, I decided to start my own company, Glowfrog. So I thought there were only 4 other companies at the time in the UK, starting with Hayes Davidson, Miller Hair, GMJ, and then there was Virtual Artworks. So I was the fifth actual studio to set up in the UK or be registered at Companies House. Um, So I was quite proud of that, even though I didn't have any clients or anything. Um, but anyway, carried on freelancing. And then in around 1998, it was the birth of what was known as the dot-com era. And I was working in the city for freelancing under my, Glow Frog, the company, for an architectural practice. Um, and I noticed that everyone was using, I think it was called the Barber Index. It was a printed document where that was where you'd go to get all your architectural details, or you could go, you'd have to actually send away to a client to get CAD blocks and everything. And I came up with this idea of, why don't we actually start an online 3D library uh, of both 3D and 2D? Uh, and we called it Replica Nation. And I need to jump to the next slide. There we go. Let's jump to the next slide. Um, so Replica Nation was born with seed funding from venture capitalists in the city. They were all getting greedy. They were all like, internet's going to be the next big thing. It's, this is how we're going to make all our money. So let's invest in this online 3D company, which they did. And we actually started at the same time as Turbo Squid. And then quickly we grew to around 65 people. We had millions in investment, and the company kept growing. We started working, I think we had 50 of the world's top furniture manufacturers all using us to actually make all their 3D models. And we had a team of 20 software developers, people from Oracle. They're coming over from Silicon Valley. It was great fun. And we developed our own file format for 3ds Max.
Which one was it?
What's
The format.
I, I sorry, I could hear something. It was a Repliset. Um, well, we had to actually work with Autodesk at the time and actually rewrite some of their back end, because it just, when I say we, I'm talking about the software engineers. But what our software allowed us to do for the furniture manufacturers is, it was literally product placement. You could, I mean, these days this is all common. But you could actually select a product, you could drop it into your scene, and then that was also linked through to the 2D CAD drawing. So anything in 2D. So if you had a big, massive space plan, an interiors office, you could lay everything out in 2D and click the button, and it's going to populate in 3D, and vice versa. Then when it came to quantity surveys, when it came time to actually price up the job, if the QS started to say, oh, we can't afford that furniture, you could just swap it. You just change it. It would swap it throughout the whole project. Sounds like BIM these days, but this is 26 years ago. So that was
Yeah.
going great.
It's way before Beam. Is it the time when you were called the face of 3D?
Well, I'm going to just jump onto that. So you can see there on the slide. So it came to 2001, right? And things were going good. We're going through a second round, might have been third round funding for 20 million from a company called 3i. And I thought, yep, here we go. We're going to take us to the next level, sort of competing against Turbo Squid. And I was 32 at the time. But what had happened in the sort of previous, I suppose, 3 months or so, because I was so young, and the investors felt that I wasn't city type, and I'm not. I don't get on with city type people. And sorry, city type people, if you're watching. But I couldn't talk that city crap. I'm a creative. That's who I am. That's my DNA. That's who I was always going to be. So they wanted to replace me as CEO, and it was a bitter pill to swallow. and sitting in board meetings of the company that you'd created and having these older men, and they usually are, sit there and say, "Oh, Nigel, that this is great. You'll still have your shares, etc. But we need to replace you with someone, a CEO from Silicon Valley." And anyway, this I'll try not to swear, by the way, in this talk. So
It's all good. You're
apologies, people, if I get a bit angry. Um, the This is actually where my gray hair started. The the stress involved in running that and having someone come into your business who has no interest in you, the customer. So we had I think about 30,000 3D users back then. All We're all using our downloading all our tools. That was all going great. Then we had 65 people in the studio, and this guy replaced me, and my team were like, "Nigel, what's going on?" And it's like, it's the money people. The money men are coming in, and they you know they're wanting to do things with the business. And so what transpired there is, in that 2001 year, I essentially got pushed out of my own business. Um, it started when they'd pushed me aside as CEO and just to become creative director. And the next thing I knew at in the board meeting is that the board decided to not pay our suppliers. And they said to me, they said, "Nigel, you have to find a fault with the software." And I said, "There's nothing wrong with the software. The software is perfect." Our team, of 25 people, are doing a fantastic job. And they said, "Don't care. Find a, make up a fault, find a fault." And we ended up owing our team I think we're about £400,000. And again, they came to me and they said, "Nigel, what's going on?" And we had this whole internal fight started. I was on the side of the team, and as the grey hair started, you couldn't imagine the stress fighting for your own business. But anyway, after about 6 months, I couldn't deal with it anymore. It was too much. It was affecting my whole family life and everything. Um, and so I walked away and left my business and went back to focusing on what I'd started in 1996, which was Glowfrog. Um,
So you
but
were pushed
before,
out of your business. I cannot imagine how you must have felt. It's like a betrayal. And there is a comment here by Amit. I would gladly read it to you. I haven't read it myself. But he says it generally happens that finance guys have no clue about the business and are only bothered about profits and losses and not what the creative person can lead the company to with his or her vision.
which is true, but it's also not true. And I think as you, and there will be people here, or they probably aren't here because they're running successful businesses. There's two sides to creativity. Always got to be a business side, and there's got to be the if you like, the explorative side, where you're allowed to make mistakes. You can't succeed without failure. The two go hand in hand. You've got to keep pushing yourself. If all you're doing is playing it safe, then you that will lead on to what we talk about later with AI. If you're playing it safe, you're not going to survive. Anyway, so this story, I walked away bitter, angry, and I was still young. I was still young. Uh, the So I went back to focusing on, oh, that on the slide was sort of the if you like, the pinnacle of that company. We got, in that 2000 year, the year I left, we got listed as one of the top 100 CGI companies, or companies in CGI in the world, alongside, the Microsoft and Nvidia, which is funny. In that magazine, we're sort of up there with Nvidia. I got labeled by Leading Magazine as the face of 3D. which was totally embarrassing going to events and people are going, "Oh, that's you." It's like, shut up, leave me alone. Anyway,
Why embarrassing though? I mean, it's a beautiful, handsome face for
well, and
3D. Come on.
I think the embarrassment is the admitting failure, as in being pushed out of something that you can't control, or that as soon as, if you like, money, and I get it, the money people had invested millions in the business. They wanted their pound of flesh back. They wanted, you know, and this is, I see it today. This is happening with businesses, that everything is a negotiation. It's a transaction, right? That the if I give you money, I want that plus interest plus, I want to make my money back, and I don't want to make it back in your time. It's got to be on my terms. So it's a very cautionary tale, but if you get in with the right investors, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
Anyway,
this is the thing. There is, some investors, in my experience and observation, some investors are interested in long-term
yeah,
gains and they understand that it's not just they immediately make the money. And usually then it works. Those who are invested in, the quick return of their money and multiplication of their money usually ruin the business in the long term. This is what happens with the gaming industry right now and partially also in Hollywood and stuff. So just
but
my opinion.
that is what. And back then, the .com was about short term. It was like, what can we do to? The reason I want to talk about this a lot is because the parallels of what's happening now, but now on steroids, is identical. Um, and let's face it, did the with the .com crash that happened later that year, that when that happened, Replica Nation started to fold. All the assets got sold to the, this is what I am told, got sold to the guys who started Design Connected. So that the assets lived on and started a new business. That's great. So that was good to know. Anyway, let's continue with my little story. I'm not boring everyone, am I?
No, no, no. People are actually reacting. Here, Kanchana from Sri Lanka says, I have actually rejected several management positions because I can be fake and be nice to people, like whom Nigel mentioned. You know,
Yeah, it's you. Sometimes it's you've got to do it to actually try and achieve what you're trying to make. But if you look at, say, the film and television industry, and a lot of post-production houses, they, because there are massive amounts of investment that need to go into actually setting up a, if you like, a visual effects company or post house, you need investment. And that's also why we're seeing now that a lot of them are folding, because the advertising industry is going through absolute turmoil. Um, so therefore, they're losing their client base and they can't afford to repay all their kit. Anyway, I got full on. This is now 2001. I got full on into getting into production. That was a kind of a good leader. So I figured that's it. We got to really, really get stuck into, ignoring the technology stuff for now. I want to build a business that, because I'd seen what studios like D-Box and so Matthew had gone to New York, and then you had Neoscape, and you had all these companies that were doing really well, and because now architectural visualization was starting to mature, and the this is before um, Vlado came along, and we were using a program called Brazil.
oh,
Now, remember Brazil?
yes, I
Yeah,
do.
Brazil was fantastic. And it was born out of Blur Studios. I think it's great that you used it. Everyone was in love with it, and then along down the road, a few years later, there was this sort of rumors on the internet of this software being developed, this new software called V-Ray. And it was supposedly much easier to use than Brazil. back in the 90s, we'd use mental ray and things were starting to get easier and you could actually achieve much better results. So Vlado came to London in early, I don't know, was it 2003 or four? And him and the Chaos team turned up with this enormous computer, a workstation that they were carting around all the studios to show off V-Ray, and that was it. We were sold and have used V-Ray ever since. Well, we purposely diverse the company. And it was after what had happened with the .com, replication, I didn't want to be caught out again. And so I thought, let's try and build a studio that will continue from the 90s, will continue doing some architectural visualization work, but only focusing on the big jobs. It wasn't worth pursuing the architects for one or two visuals. We started to focus only on big master plans, and that led us to basically the green line here, 20 years of working in the Middle East. So we worked in every country apart from Yemen and Syria, and so yeah, it was lots and lots of stories in that, but I won't go into that. It was a fantastic time. We
How,
also
how did you end up on that market though?
working with big if I'm honest, working with big American master plan architects, and they would come. Started small and jobs got bigger and bigger, and then we bypassed the architects to start to work with developers, because the developers tend to not really like working with the architects. If an architect's charging $1 million just to produce a concept master plan, and then most of that work is relied upon by the visualizer, who gets a fraction of that, by the way. The architect pockets all the rest for all your hard work. So we bypassed that and went straight to the developer and said, look, we can do the architecture. We can do the conceptual side as well. So we started working more and more in the property marketing side. So again, stepping up another notch, competing now with D-Box and Uniform at the time. There was Squint Opera. We're all bidding against the same work. We were smaller. So I drew upon my software development knowledge from the replication days and went, we've got to actually build our in-house software team to keep ourselves nimble and actually to try and take on bigger jobs, do things more, if you like, more efficiently. Let's develop our own tools to actually be able to build master plans, to be able to build buildings, to optimize things. And so we started that, and that then led also to getting into more and more complex TV work. Now, I've been ranting for about half an now. Is
Yeah.
it time to show a show reel?
Oh, for sure.
Shall I do a show reel and then I can
Yeah,
continue?
please.
Is that what the audience would like? Let's play it. There we go.
This was great. Unfortunately, there was some issue as at some point people started seeing me instead of the showreel
Oh no,
because
I
I thought,
enjoyed that. I enjoyed you popping up. That was fun.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know why it happened, but yeah, apparently people also have a bit of an issue with pixelated graphics for whatever
you
reason.
are
I cannot tell.
pixelated, but I don't mind that either. Um,
No, just the general stream. I think it's, I don't know if it's my connection or something. As I told you, this is my first stream with a fiberglass, which was supposed to be way better because the upload speed is like 6 times the one that I used to have before. But in recent times there have been many technical issues. Let's just continue. The recording is going to be high class because everything is recorded in HD. So the moment we're finished, I will just go make sure to share the version on YouTube so everyone can watch it in high definition.
there's lots more to come, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, people hear you perfectly and they
Hmm,
see it's just that the small stuff isn't that well
yeah.
visible, I think.
The I was meant to show you that at the beginning. I've got some other reels, but let's press on. The reason I wanted to sort of show that the image here doesn't justify what me and the team did over 20 years. Um, it the you know by we'd grown to a small boutique studio. We'd captured in television. We had captured the UK and the US documentary market, and no one else wanted to touch television for years and years and years. It was a dirty word. Everyone in Soho, everyone wanted to work on features or commercials. No one wanted to go near recreations of if you like ancient Rome or cities. And for me that was it was a breath of fresh air. It was so much fun doing the research and actually getting involved in storytelling. I hear the word storytelling a lot in architecture, and to be honest, I think it's a load of BS, because it's not storytelling. You're selling property. That's all you're doing. Whereas in games, in any other art form, it is part of the end product. In archviz, it's not part of the end product. It's a means to making a building or selling an interior. That's all it is. Anyway, I diverse. So things are going great for us. We by 2015, we'd reached in the Middle East, we'd reached a level where we were working directly with sovereignty. So we're working directly with the Saudi royal family and the Kuwait royal family, which was fun. The we they trusted us to sort of carry out and work on if you like their visions for their countries, and we worked on a multi-million-dollar project since 2015, the Kuwait 2035 vision. Now that job went on for about a year or so, I think. um it was great fun. I spent 3 months out there and trying to. I had a studio now that was self-sufficient. It was running. We had producers. I spent as VFX supervisor 3 months out in Egypt, and Kuwait, and some other countries filming. And we had a production in Egypt. We had a production team of about 100 working on this project. Uh, but again, another big long story that some of you that have talked to me when I go to conferences, and we end up spending half the day chatting, which is great fun. I really appreciate that. So things were going well. At the end of 2015, the exec producer and myself flew out to Kuwait to present the film at the Royal Palace, together with the other people in the production. So that was sort of a pinnacle, a highlight of my career, and I thought, you know, hey, where do you go from here? Here you are, dressed up in a suit, standing in the royal palace, and sort of the imposter syndrome kicks in of like, I I'm just making pictures for a living. That's I don't deserve to be standing here, presenting to these royal family. Um,
That's very interesting to hear, though. I mean, after all that you have achieved by this point, that the imposter syndrome still kicks in for you is, I don't know,
but
what
doesn't
should
it for
others
everyone?
say who
It's
only do renders,
they what made it even more. I'll talk a little bit about it, that experience. So we we'd been invited in, the exec producer and myself, um, to the palace together. There was about 100 people, or maybe 50. You had the whole that it felt like the UN, right? So one side of the room was all the production team, and the other side of the room were all the royal family. And we had in the ante room beforehand were sitting there drinking coffees and feeling all important. Before this, I was trying to find the actual photo to prove to you again the whole Forrest Gump thing of where's that photo of me standing in front of the Kuwaiti flag in the palace? Because no one's going to believe we were there. I couldn't find it in time. But anyway, we get led into the UN room and we sit down, and I'm sitting next to the director, and we're planned for it and prepped for it. And it was going to be the director who talked first and presented the film. And me as VFX supervisor wasn't going to say anything, right? And and then one of the advisors to the royal family comes in, and they're over here, they're having a bit of a conversation. And then they come up to me and or come up to the director and say, do you mind if Nigel is the first person to say to at the beginning, can you talk about how you made, if you like, made the visual effects, made these fictitious cities? Talk talk about the visual effects side of it, but under no circumstances explain how you actually did it. And I'm like, and I had 2 minutes to think about it. And the director sitting beside me, laughing his head off and going, I'm pleased you, it's not me. And so the royal family all come walking in, and they go, that's great. With the big, massive TV, the big projector, it's all set up. And before this starts, Nigel, would you like to have a few words? And I had to try and explain what architectural visualization is and visual effects without actually talking about green screening and everything done on the computer. And anyway,
and without
pouring
proper
with
preparation.
no preparation. I just winged it. Anyway, we play the film. There's two little stories from this I'll tell, and then I'll move on. That we play the film, and then it gets to the stage in the film where, because again, really, really progressive country. Their vision for it was again about community, trying to bring in more people from around the world, from education side, and we've got this lovely shot, sort of aerial shot, all these students enjoying it, and the crown prince go, oh, stop the film. And we're all going, oh my God, what have we done? What have we done? And he says to the exec producer and the director, he says, this is all looking good, but one comment. And it's like, okay. And he said, why aren't they enjoying themselves, the people on screen? Why aren't they having drinks and partying and having fun like young people should do? And we're just there going, what's going on? We're in this strict country, and it's like, no, young people are supposed to have fun. Anyway, film finishes, and the crown prince says to the exec, this is 2 days before Christmas, right? And so everyone's winding down, and we have to get back to the UK. And then he said, right, this is great. I want you to make the changes that I just talked about. And then I want you, because you think he's going to be, Crown Prince was joining the king, I think, in Andorra over winter or around Christmas time. He said, I want you to bring the film to show the king in Andorra for Christmas. And we're going, still don't quite know what's happening. Is it just, you can take the jet, fly, you can fly the film in the jet. And then he said, and he was laughing. And he said, to make it extra special, I want you to dress up as Santa and deliver it to him. So that was my experience with dealing with the Kuwait royal family. Good people, good fun. So this was great. Life was good. This is 2015. Going into 2016, this is the yo-yo. And this is why you can never, it's the only thing with life is change. Change is the constant. So we're at the top of our game and everything fell apart. I thought after 20 years running this business that we're invincible, that things could never, I'd watch businesses in Soho come and go around the world. They would, I thought, we don't have all our eggs in one basket. We've diversified enough to survive, but I didn't see the future. What I mean by that is we'd not really, in broadcast, we're not really paid much attention to pay-per-view, to the rise of Netflix. It's, we were working with TV producers and production companies in Europe and in the US and in the UK. But none of us saw what we expect that that Netflix came along. And essentially, beginning of the year, I was ringing up the production companies saying, great, right, what have we got lined up for this year? And they were all, one after another, they were all saying to me, hey, Nigel, it's really great for us. We've been recommissioned. The show's now going to be on Netflix, and we've now got this much, much bigger budget. Netflix wants to spend more money. And I was like, finally, we're going to now be able to start to increase and build our company. And they said, but Nigel, you're not coming with us. I said, what do you mean? I've been working with you for, 12 years or more. Every year we, thought they were friends, right? And they were like, no, the Netflix have said that we now have to, the production company, now have to start using the big Soho visual effects companies. And I was like, they don't even do television. They just do film and commercials. What? And they said, no, they're all starting broadcast TV work. And that was when, as you think that's like 10 years ago, that's when the Game of Thrones, all these big episodic television started kicking off because all the big film companies started taking broadcast seriously. And we and a lot of our other peers and smaller smaller VFX and graphics companies all got left behind. We got shat on, excuse me. And that really hurt. And within 9 months, the business I'd built in 1996, I lost it. I'm not going to compare it to what it's like losing, family member or whatever, but it hurt. It hurt real bad. And
Within 9 months, you say?
it took 9 months. Essentially what started to happen is first of all, the work dried up pretty quickly. I had a team of around 20. You know, I know a lot of you may be watching have bigger studios or smaller, but it's still, whatever size it is, you still wake up at 3 a.m. thinking, how am I going to pay my staff? Where's that next paycheck coming from? And I thought, great, the architecture, the projects in the Middle East are going to carry us through and carry the company through. But that started going wrong too. That I can't quite remember what was happening in 2016, but it was a perfect storm. Everything started going wrong. We started owing more money to the HMRC, the tax department, and yeah, long and short of it is they finally had enough and they came after us and took us to court and wound our company up. And then, if you like, then the shit happened because I was owing hundreds of thousands of pounds. And our number one priority was to pay our staff and make sure the freelancers, everyone who worked for us, got paid over us. Anyway, so business wise, and I think this is one lesson number one. Two things. One, your staff are not, most of them, I'm going to say most, they're not your friends. They're being paid. You if you work for a company, you are there to work for the company, not for the owner of the company. What happened to me is with the company that does shut its door, and I was reading last week, in Soho, it's happening daily now. Um, you are. It's like having cancer. You All your friends abandon you, all your clients abandon you, everyone leaves you. And that's also a period of your life when not everyone, let me rephrase it, there's going to be one or two out of your whole network who will actually be empathetic enough to actually understand that it wasn't you. It's 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 circumstances God, it's hard. And it really affected my wife and I. And she was suicidal. I wasn't far behind. And that sort of led on to, let's move on quickly.
Oh
It
yeah.
led on to the birth of SiNi. So when all of you who may know me through SiNi was born out of, if you like, the demise of my production company. It's I needed, when I knew that things weren't going great and we weren't going to survive, I spun the business off. I spun the tech team that we had in the production company that had helped us compete against the likes of Squint and D-Box and the like, into its own separate company. So that's how SiNi was born. And then that is everyone all right? Is this
Yeah.
resonating with people?
It is resonating with people. It's of course very heavy to hear this because
We're gonna, that's the we're through the worst of it, peoples. Um,
no, but it is. I think that even though, like, of course, in your case, it was a very different scale, very way larger scale. But I think that many of the people who are here have also built something over time, and I mean, it's like the second company that you're losing. No, no, and it's like,
but this is why I thought the yo-yoing is a perfect, if you like, analogy of you. None of us know what's around the corner or what's to come, but it's how you carry yourself. And that this is going to lead on to me talking about community in a minute. It's how you carry yourself through the thick and the thin, through the panic attacks of how am I going to get through today? And I mean, you look at me. I'm an old guy, and I know some of you go, "Well, you can't say that," but it's you when you've been in the career for this long, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but it's. I think for some of us, it's just you don't know any different but to keep going. It's it's just like I've never been a person, and hopefully a lot of you don't give up. If this is what you love doing, then continue doing it. Take the money out of it, and you're still going to keep playing, keep making stuff because that's who you are. That's your DNA. Right. Anyway, so we've got SiNi on the screen. So that was born out of Glowfrog. Now, as you can see down here, I went from being self-obsessed with one business that was my baby, that I thought that would be my legacy. That would be what I was building it to, basically as a succession plan to start handing over to the team. And yeah, didn't work out. What happened afterwards? I fractured into, I've got, no, I won't show you all I've got websites and everything. So we're lined up that I could show you. So we've got a small production company, that some of the team that survived Glowfrog and I still work with. I've got the software company that, again, ex members of Glowfrog. So that's fun. But then I also, with SiNi, after having been in the business for so long, I was struggling, or we were struggling to try and get the name out there, if you like. So that's why I got involved with 3D London. I would try and, if you like, call people or email my competitors that I'd had for so many years. And, you know, I won't say the sort of things that they're like, no way, Nigel, are you coming to our studio to steal our work? And I was like, no, I'm now in the software game. And so it was easier to get involved in community and be known as, hopefully some of you know me through SiNi. That was by design, was actually getting into community. What I learned from that was, if you like, that was the motivation. What I learned from it was there's a lot more to community than being a sponsor. Um,
Yes.
and that, I think, oh no, here we go. So that leads on to talking about community. There you are, all you lot, you community people. Um, and I think I've written here, if I look back on the last 10 years, I can say that community helped me recover from what happened at Glowfrog. It being involved with other like-minded people, going to conferences, getting involved in the 3D London was if you like, it was a relief to be able to talk to people away from. So it wasn't over, by the way, for me. And after this, I had 3 years of legal legal fighting, and then after all of that, having to then basically remortgage the house to it was awful. Anyway, we won't go on to that. Back onto community. Community was a relief away from all that shit that was happening. So that was the fun stuff, and suddenly getting into the more community stuff where, again, down the bottom here, where are we? I missed out on talking about remember, some of us might remember the VR boom when all of a sudden all of the work we were doing all revolved around VR and
Yeah,
back
the
here,
future was VR and AR.
AR. Yeah. So, but even before that, in the sort of 2000s, we went through the period of when 360 imagery came back big time. And, you know, we think of it now and you don't think sick and, just doing a hotspot, that's normal. But then remember that there was 360 video, there was 360 images. We all got into all that. That was a new trend that was coming along. Then along came VR and we all thought, we're all sold, let's say. We're all sold that we were going to get rid of all these monitors and we would all be wearing our fancy 3D glasses now. And you, Tio, you and me would be interacting in real time space and the audience would all be there. Where's that now, right?
Yeah.
But think of how much big tech spent on selling that dream. Look at what happened to Facebook. They renamed to Meta. They invested $80 billion on, I mean, can you remember that awful video that Zuckerberg did of him in the metaverse? And that
Yeah.
the same conversation that's happening now around AI happened back then around, everything's going to change with, there were people in Viz who were starting to go, we're going to focus on designing stuff for the metaverse. It's like, what are you on about? Anyway, that was back then. Time moves on. So down the bottom of that graphic, I'm going to get rid of the community. Who saw COVID coming, right?
Oh yeah. How can you foresee this though? I mean,
Here we all were, where where the conferences were taking off. That the conferences like D2 were that for everyone and for community. It was that I bring up D2 because it became center of the world of the pinnacle of best conferences. A lot of people wanted to emulate and copy them, but they had that real, and they still do. Jason still the real community spirit to it of inclusion, and as do others. I'm not going to discredit that, but for me at the time when I started going to the conferences after what had happened to Glowfrog, I was welcome as an old guy there. the COVID came along, and so I started working with Chaos, and Chaos was sponsoring 3D London because I'd got involved and diversified it because it was a boys' club. It was awful before then. Um, and they used to go, "Oh, why don't women come to this?" And it's like, well, let's look at if you don't invite people, if you don't make an example of what it is that you want to actually be represented, then of course it's not going to happen. So we diversified away from just archviz. And I purposely welcomed everyone, welcomed and tried to bring in different conversations, and it really worked. It changed within the first year, and sort of now totally inclusive, great fun. And anyway, so Chaos got involved sponsoring, and then along came COVID. And I'm going to do another slide, and this time I'm going to take that off. I'm going to show you this slide. So it was the beginning of God. When did COVID start? Was it 2019 or 20?
Yeah, in the beginning of 20. I mean, it's
Mm,
COVID-19, but it started officially, like massively, in the
mm.
beginning of 2020.
So what had happened is that me and the marketing team, the two Teddies and Melissa, so they were sponsoring 3D London, and we were having what was it, in January, whatever. We were having a meeting of what we were going to do that year in London, and and then the next thing, the world started closing up, and so I don't know if you all can recall. Suddenly we were all online doing this, but people were having quiz night, quiz meetups and everything. And we took 3D London and we put it onto YouTube, and we continued to just sit around and gossip and talk and have a great time. And then the James from the Boundary, where's James? He's down there from the Boundary. He wanted to start one up in New York, and we were like, well, that's a great idea. Just all you have to do is get involved and do it. And we all look at it. All of us lot here were gossiping and talking, and then Teddy from Chaos and I came up with this insane idea after we talked for so long. And one night in London, and literally we brought the New York team, or New York guys got involved, and we went, why don't we just continue talking for 24 hours? And that's how 24 Hours of Chaos was born. And we went, this is a great concept to actually bring people from around the world together. And actually, for a 2-hour show, as you can see here, it transcended boundaries. It moved around the world. And we did that for 3 years. And this is the reason I bring this up, is this is probably one of the things I'll look back on my career of, and say that this is one of the things I'm so proud that I was involved in the creation of this. And
Rightfully
yeah,
so.
it was
Totally missed Auto Chaos.
it was it was so much
Uh,
fun
24
working
hours.
with such great people, and the diversity of, if you like, how we organize this. I didn't want to hear from the usual suspects. That, as part of the executive team, we're like, look, I want to. Why is Africa underrepresented in this community? Why don't we have people from the Pacific? Why don't we hear people from all over the world? And it's like, look, go out. We need to put together a team of hosts. So these are all our hosts from all over the world that we managed to convince to I guess present at different times a day. It did start, I can't remember what time it started in London, and it finished in Europe, in Sofia, in Bulgaria. Um, but hats off to everyone who got involved, and then to everyone who participated. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up, because I wanted sort of, there was one story in particular that really resonated with what we were doing. And that was, so the two shows I was responsible for was the Middle East and Africa. And the team we had was, look at that. Beautiful. Tia, what was that for?
This was the ultimate champion of the last event, the last
What
ever that
s-
happened.
for sticking around for 24 hours?
Yeah, I did.
Look,
I loved it. It felt like being a part of this, like global community of friends that you might not know personally, but it feels like we're sharing a very similar fate. So yeah,
so my
I
little
miss.
story, you can stay there. I'll just move across. So there's this. We went out of our way to find interesting people and who don't get a voice on the world stage. You, my friend, are providing that to the community, which I'm super proud of. That back then, so there was this one guy, Ravison, who came from Mauritius and had never talked online before. He was terrified. The reason we selected him when we were going through all the people, who should we get on the show, is so the African team were like, we're going through, look, how about this guy? And it's like, why are you showing me images of delicious looking food? And they were going, Nigel, that's 3D. And I was like, are you kidding me? What kind of a person would model delicious looking, lovely chickpea dishes? And he was using Blender and I think Unreal or whatever at the time. Anyway, we got him on the show, a little bit of media training to talk online. Uh, he was great. He was, and his story by doing this, and why I'm bringing this up, because I want to encourage people to join you on your show, and because it really helped. 6 months later, it might have been a year later, he got in touch and said, Nigel, the 24 hours of chaos changed my life. And I was like, well, it's nice to hear from you. What do you mean it changed your life? And he said, someone from LA watched the show, was watching the show, and he ran a product marketing company. And he got in touch with Ravison and said, hey, I love what you're doing. Would you be prepared to work remotely for our company in LA? And so he was like, couldn't believe it. He'd put himself out there. He'd put himself out, you know, by just talking for 6 minutes on 24 Hours of Chaos. And he said, I've now been working for the last year for this company. I'm now providing for my family, and everything's working out great. And that to me was the takeaway from all the shows that we did, is that by providing a platform, which is what you're doing, to people who are underrepresented outside of the norm, not in Europe, not in US or South America, that's what we should be doing. So I was super proud of that. I was super proud of everyone that I worked with.
Yeah.
And
If I might tune in for a second, as like we're providing a platform here, Chaos is providing. I'm just the one running it. A platform for everyone who's putting in the efforts. Whatever you may come, whoever you are, when you're putting in the effort, you get the stage here with the Chaos Campus. And of course, additionally, something which Michael mentioned in the comments. Every Friday we have. Almost every Friday, we have these artist introductions where people get to tell their story in front of everyone. Most of the times it's recorded then shared in the community for everyone to see. But it's not only getting to know each other, which is very important for me as a community, so that we're not just small names and avatars, but actual people whose voice you have heard, whose face you've seen. But also exactly what you said, for people to learn to speak in front of a camera, to speak in English in front of others, because no matter how good and great you are in what you're doing, if you don't put yourself out there for people to see, to notice you, you'll just remain unnoticed. This is just how things work.
I would disagree with one thing you said.
Okay, please do.
And I keep trying to force this to people who are doing shows online. It doesn't have to be in English. It's why should it be in English? That if you're not comfortable talking in English, we live in an AI world where at the click of a button, it can be translated into Kiwi or whatever language you want. So don't feel that is a barrier to getting on and talking to Tio on the show.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, I have nothing against it, honestly.
And
For now, English is just the international language, and it's so useful. Like going to these events, meeting people. English is just the language that everyone speaks. So I still recommend it though. But of course, one thing that also happens and that we very much encourage here, which Amit is doing, for example, is also creating your local communities where you don't need to speak English.
100%. Now
Um,
that leaves me. I've got a couple more, two more slides.
yeah, of course, I'll make you a big screen again.
But you don't have to. But the so it leads me on to what happened earlier this year with the what again working with chaos in London, and we did Uplift London, which was a phenomenal event, free event, which we try to. I mean, yes, should be encouraged because the world costs so much to do things these days. So, uh, again, fantastic team that we work with, great presenters, great fun. We'll be doing it again next year. Finally, that's going to lead me on to my latest venture of what we're doing is when Tio, when did we last talk? Was it earlier this year?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like two
So
weeks ago.
since then, you know, I was back in New Zealand in what January and February, and sort of taking some time out with family, and then thinking, where do I land on AI? Where does AI? Because it's I'm not like a lot of you. Um, I've been confused by it. I didn't know publicly how I should respond to AI, generative AI, image making, da 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 da. And then of course, AI is being in production and we've used it, I don't know, for 10 years or so and upscaling. Also, think of it how it slowly crept in. Now, around 10 years ago, we had two young Cambridge graduates come to the SiNi office, and they they were now part of if you like, a startup or a side business to Cambridge, where there was like I think 30 people. They had been venture backed to basically disrupt the image making or the visualization industry. It's all by design. Um, anyway, where I landed earlier this year is we'd tried vibe coding for the last few years. It was awful. Didn't work until it did. And then I thought it was just us. I thought, well, hang on a sec. So, you know, making software is incredibly time consuming. Not just for think of chaos, for example. There's a lot of people work there. Not everyone's a software engineer. You've got the software engineers. You've got the technical writers. You've got the whole marketing, the whole team. It's a team of people that come build software. Um, with vibe coding, and fast forward to today, you can do it. You can make your own tools. You can make fun tools. It's almost reached a stage where, so with SiNiLab.com, it started off as a SiNi idea, and then with what we did with Uplift London, and by hosting a panel of vibe coders, the light bulb again went off. Again, if I brought up the graphic of every 10 years I seem to reinvent myself, um, the light bulb went off, and it was like, this is bigger than just what we're doing. Why not create a marketplace platform, a bit like Gumroad, but cheaper, where other people can host their tools, and that's what's happening now. So we launched last week. We've got some incredible tools, and there's about 15 vibe coders involved at the moment. There are some products available. So if for those of you who know RenderRam, oh, let me just
Of
share.
course, the echo is in the comments right now.
So you say that again.
The echo is in the comments. We know Random Ram, of
Oh
course.
yeah, no, it's we're partners in crime. But I check out what he's doing. You're You're gonna, if you two versions. You can download the trial version. The Dropper's the first tool that he's made. And for those of you who have tried to use, and yeah, okay, a lot of you are probably super bright and brainy and know how to use Tyflow and have the time to set up the Tyflow properly. Um, what Vecco's done is created a tool where you just hotkey it and drops. It's beautiful.
Yes.
You got a ring of stuff. It can drop, and it's so much. I got when he showed me a week or so ago, I got so excited and went, "Oh my god! This means that cyanide doesn't have to make this. You've gone and done it." That's the ethos of what's going on with the cyanide lab. Is we're all a bunch of nutters coming up. So we've got Art from Common Point. He's getting involved. We've got all these people getting involved just to share stuff. A lot of it's free. Most of it is free. Of course, if it takes someone weeks and weeks to create, then by all
Yeah.
means they should charge money for it, right? So that's it. That's all I've got to say on SiNi Lab. Go check it out. Render RAM stuff's available. Highly recommend it. And I'm losing a lot of time just mucking around with cool stuff, dropping things. Super fun.
Can everyone participate, or make an account and
Hell
become a
yeah.
vibe coder
The,
there?
the, the thing is that, and that this goes back to my very long, lengthy talk, is my experience in running software companies and doing it before that. That's the back end, if you like. And it's so we're there to support you. And because there's, people are uploading stuff. Hasn't been encrypted. It's like, you don't want to do that. You want to encrypt it. So at least your intellectual property, what you've made, um, isn't just easily copied.
Okay.
But
But
so
it's
yeah,
open. So people, because on the campus we also have a few people who are vibe coding,
yeah,
sharing different tools. Can they just,
yeah,
join and also
yeah.
share their stuff?
There's a link. Just get in touch.
Okay, exactly. I shared the link in the comments already,
Yeah, yeah, by all means.
but
It,
please also make a post on the campus. Make a
yeah,
post,
well,
tell people about it, invite them.
I haven't yet because we weren't ready. We're now ready. Basically the shop was open. The shop is open. Marketing had this is an exclusive because we haven't announced it to the world yet. I wanted to save that for this moment for the campus to talk about, because we've not talked about it mentioned it at 3D London, but no one's seen. Do you want to have a look at it? I can share the screen. Yeah.
Please. Once again, I already shared the link in the comments so people can
Well,
go
I'll just
see.
talk you through. If you
Yeah.
share me.
Yeah, I'll make the screen larger so people see you. Once again, it's pixelated, but the final recording will be great, so everybody will be able to see it properly.
All I see is you. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, this will change.
Yeah.
I'll just show
So
it.
this is the website. These are some of the tools available. Right now, we're trying to keep up with. We've got about 30 or 35 tools of various complexities ready to download. Here you've got yeah. So this is what's available at the moment. So if we go to the top, we've got, these are all the people participating at the moment. So by all means, we're welcome to, everyone can come and join us if you've got a cool script or tool to show. All you have to do, here we go, become a collaborator. You've got all the information you need. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. There you go. That's all I'll show you on that one.
Thank you so much. Once again, please make a post about it on the campus so that
Yeah.
people see it and follow it. But yeah, I think it's a great idea to do that. I also see a great potential in vibe coding, and we'll talk more about AI later, of course, at the Q&A.
I do. Oh no, I won't do the speech just yet. I wrote, I made some notes on AI. Do you want me to kick that off? Are we ready to do
Let's
that?
start with first some questions about
Okay.
your career, if you're finished at all, of course.
I'm going to absolutely have a break, have a drink whilst you ask questions.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for this. I think you said it's pretty exclusive. You're not often talking about this, and yeah, it's actually great that you did this because I think we're always talking about the positive stuff, and the negative or the bad or the not so successful stuff kind of gets, it's just hidden under the carpet. And because of this, people have the feeling that a career is just, a straight line from the bottom to the top, which obviously it isn't. And almost everyone who I know, very, very extremely successful people, have had very bad downs and phases they would almost give up and stuff. In your case, you said keeping you going was, let's say, the character or passion, whatever you want to call it. Can this be developed, or is it something that you simply have or don't have?
Can passion be developed?
Yeah.
If you're interested in what you do.
Yeah. In
It's
like
you
how?
can't you if if you're a brain surgeon, can you be passionate about, I don't know, working as a baker, or it's possibly it the mine. I didn't know anything else. I look back. The reason I wanted to show you all, let's bring that up again. I wanted to show you all of that. No, you split screen. So, oh, there we go. I wanted to show you all of that as I'm just producing this, and I look thinking about, you know, think of it's a long time. I was thinking about, being involved in making parties and raves and everything. And I was saying to my wife this morning, it was like, yeah, maybe I should have gone down that other career path and actually, you know, been narrow. Possibly, what would have I been involved in Tomorrowland, or big parties, rather than they're having this conversation about AI or image making. I don't know, but would I do I regret it? No. Do I think we're going through a period of uncertainty? Yes and no. Um, I'll take that off. The the as part of I'm going to skip through a lot of the speech here that I've got. The yes and no being, what is it that you're afraid of? What? So shall I read what I've written here? This is my my notes to myself of like, should read this out on the show, because it.
If you think it's the right moment, please do.
Okay, and I think it is. Um, Let me just skip. So I've said AI. Is it the poison chalice? You all know where the term comes from Macbeth, right? When the crown, the the crown is put on Macbeth, and it's the poison chalice, because for what he's about to receive, it means that it's going to cause nothing but trouble. Which, if you
I've,
know,
I've read Macbeth in Bulgarian, I gotta say, not in English. So the term wasn't, I didn't know, but now that you say it, I understand the context. Yeah.
yeah. So the context is it's so why did AI come after image making? Was it an easy target to actually conquer it first? And then I believe that we're all complicit in feeding the training models. By you think about it, we've all posted stuff on social media, unprotected websites without robot text telling AI bots to not scrape my website. And a year or so ago, I went through hundreds of websites, or lots and lots of people's websites, to see who has the robots.txt file. But so many people aren't aware of it. And I don't know I think Chaos is fine. The Chaos, or the CG Connect, that's protected. So all the stuff you post on CG Connect, robots can't come and scrape it and go and use it for training material. But everyone, if you're posting everything on Instagram all the time, why do you think for the last year or 2 years I haven't posted anything? It's like that some of the stuff I showed, and might have to ask Tio not to show it publicly because AI just wants to steal it, doesn't it? AI. Um, and I said here, they stole your work and now you're having to pay for it as a subscription. It's being so we're all complicit. So AI is not coming for you, your clients are. That's my sort of overall. It's not AI that's the issue, it's your clients. So your customers and clients have always disliked having to pay you. It's they've never been your friends. Maybe some of them are, and so AI to them proves that they were right all along. And like basically thinking that all you do is hit the big red button, and ta-da, the image is made. Right? We all know how difficult it is. So your clients believe that they can do in minutes what takes you weeks to achieve. Um, they think AI produces better quality images. They're complete hypocrites because they think that after one or two prompts that they'll accept those results, whereas they're going to disrespect you by sending you change after change, day or night, doesn't matter. So how hypocritical can you be that we have spent years and years working for clients to their beckoning call, making their changes, and here they're going, look at what AI could, look at this, it's making beautiful images, before actually looking at it and then going, actually, what's the window over there for? Um, what else? Your issue, your issue isn't with AI directly. It's your perceived value that's getting eroded by public perception of AI. In other words, you think of so whatever. Then that's what you've got to work on. So if you think AI is coming for you, you too have been influenced by social media. And this is by design. This is what AI companies are actually doing. They want this to happen. You think, how much are AI companies spending on influence to influence not just you, your clients, everybody? You're all being sold that this is that this is taking your job. No, it's not. Um, so it's by design. They want you to believe them. They're scaremongering and propagandering with vast sums of money. Remember, the money involved here is more than most companies' GDP. In other words, most that none of us can imagine how much money that you think it's all being spent on tech. No, it's being spent on marketing to poison your mind and believing that everything's doom and gloom. It's not.
If I might throw in an example, when vitamins were discovered, this was the early 20th century, they actually helped cure fatal diseases such as scurvy, which is like the vitamin C deficiency, or rickets, the vitamin D deficiency. But after this happened, those diseases were wiped out in the developed countries. It became very difficult to sell vitamins. So in the 30s and 40s, the vitamin, producers, introduced a new marketing strategy, which was exactly as you said, the fear-based marketing campaigns, where instead of selling you the promises of health, which vitamins add to, they started selling you the fear of deficiency,
Yeah.
creating this strong sense of urgency, something along the lines of like, you might feel fine today, but on the inside, you're secretly starving and your immunity and your health will collapse any minute if you don't take our pill here. So this is nothing new. This is something that's been around for decades. And this is right now what happens with
But in the
AI.
software world and in the social media world, your goal as a social media an influencer, or if you're a designer or software engineer, you're trying to make the most sticky software possible. It has to be addictive. You cannot put it down. This thing, this thing is more addictive than heroin. It's it's you. We cannot you think you cannot live without social media. You've got to keep checking it. It's like, just put it. I know it's so hard to put it away or do away with it, and maybe we can or can't, but that's it's all by design. It's so, but let me continue. So, who do you think is going to be better at driving AI, you or your client? You, so you're the professional image maker. You have spent your life or your career, whether it be 1 year or 20 or 30, you know how to make a beautiful image. Why can't you use AI to do that? Why should your client be the one turning around to you and go, look, I can make this? It's like they, your client. So here I've written, so you've got a design orientated client, the architect. That's what they should be focusing on. And they probably are with AI, focusing on the design side. Or you've got the sales driven marketeers. They want to drive sales. And then you've got the greedy profit driven developers. All they care about is money. They don't care how fast. The faster the better. Just they don't want to give you anything. They're just like, I just want to make the reason they're doing property is they can make easy money. That otherwise, I mean, I know we're not supposed to talk about politics, but there is a property developer in America that is completely driven by greed. And anyway,
I don't think it's only in America,
okay,
but
around the
so
world. I that leads me on to the statement of keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. You know that saying?
yeah.
That applies to AI. Think of AI as the enemy. Better to get to know it and get to use it and exploit it for your benefit than not. If you don't, because everyone else is going to do it. So use AI to your advantage. Don't follow the herd, because AI is now the herd. Everyone's using AI. So don't use it in the same way everyone else is. Never be loyal. Don't be loyal to one AI. Just you've got to start using it. Um, like exploit them, right? So don't be reliant, because they might go bust, and they likely will go bust. So break the codependency. So here's my big statement. You don't need AI to make artwork, but they definitely need you to survive as a business.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
that's you are the image maker. They just desperately think that they can persuade you to basically to subscribe, and that you need them. But when they're gone or contract, like they did in my day in the .com days, yes, the internet's still here and it grew to a massive thing. But so I'm saying here, fight back with what you do best, which is better work. So that leads me to talk about Nick Bentley from a company called Somewhere. They used to be called Uniform. He talked recently at our Uplift London conference. So when I was talking to Nick, he's old guy like me, super lovely, and we sort of started talking about AI and said, how does your established studio, deal with AI? And he said, you'd be surprised how we have reacted. So two things that they've done that I thought was really interesting to know. One, they don't do short form animation anymore. AI does that. So they provide their clients with the stills, because they know full well that all the stills they give their clients, they're going to throw it into AI and make an animation of it anyway. So why fight it? That's just put that as part of we're going to give you 10 stills. This is what we recommend you use AI. Make your little 5-second animations from it. Job done. Don't care. It's that they focus on the big picture. What I thought was super interesting that hadn't come up before, and maybe on the campus you've talked about, is they've seen a rise in the good old walkthrough or the fly through. Back in our day, and Theo, you might have done this, we used to get asked, oh, we need a fly through that goes through the building and up the stairs and round the corner and da 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 da. And we resisted it. We don't want to run a camera right through a project and, just walking around. But AI can't do that. And
yes.
customers are getting so sick of what AI can do, because everyone can just do a nice, pretty 5-second thing. But the complexity now, and that now in 2026 to do the modern walkthrough or fly through is drones, to actually have real drone movement, make it feel like it's real. So there's your skill set in reinventing something that went out of fashion because it wasn't trendy. But you look at what somewhere are doing, and they are exploiting this, and their clients, this is what their clients are coming to them for now. And he said, you would be so surprised how many fly-throughs and walkthroughs we've been asked to do. So next, build a backup plan for the big crash. That
You
sounds,
expect a big crash?
yeah, I
When?
expect, okay, let's look at, let's analyze this. So it might not be a boom and bust, or it could be a slow decline. Doesn't really mean AI will disappear, because it won't. But there will be an adjustment. We see it every day. For those of you who read business stuff, it's will it become more expensive? Will it be an elite service? Will it cost a lot more? And so the rule, and I don't know if you watch detective shows or whatever, it's the rule and like a CSI type show is follow the money. And the same applies with AI. It doesn't stack up. How can trillions of dollars be invested in a company that makes no money? You think, if you had a bunch of money you wanted to invest in a business, would you invest in an AI company? It's like, when we discussed this the other day, and someone said, well, what about Amazon, with the books marketplace? And you sort of think, it was a marketplace experience. AI doesn't stack up when you start to look at the cost. When you start to see Tesla and you start to see Microsoft pulling back from their token spend and saying, we can't afford that. These are the giant companies that have sold you down the river of AI. They can't afford to spend on tokens, so why can you?
Yes.
And then I've said here, work on your personal brand. What's your value? Why should anyone care about what you do? It's like, if you came on the show with Theo and I and tried to convince us to invest in you, could you do it? Could you actually, how are you different? Because for me, the old guy, everything I see is identical. I can't tell the difference between your image or that person's. Where's the originality of who's standing out from the herd? Be fresh, be unforgettable. How do you make your work unforgettable? It's like this, that there are people doing original stuff, and that's what we can talk about. You go, hey, that person just focuses on environmental work. They're not trying to do luxury in the Middle East or whatever. They're doing something that truly matters to us as a human race. That this is something that you can actually go to bed and go, I'm really proud to be involved in this project. Not, I really hope some ultra wealthy people buy that apartment based on that CGI. So change the narrative, change your story, because you're not doing it. Everyone's doing the same thing. And I follow that with, I went a bit sideways. I said, why is Harry Styles and Taylor Swift so famous? They're just people. What makes them stand out as people? It's like, here we are, we think of celebrities as these, they go to the toilet like we do. They eat like we do. What makes them different? Right. So don't make Viz your one obsession. Everyone's so obsessed with that. On the 3D London sort of group, that I was saying to them the other day, can we stop talking about AI and get back to arguing over which renderer is better, Corona or V-Ray? It's like, these were, was it yesterday? How long ago did everyone just argue about that? But it's just, if this is all you've got as a person, like sitting at the computer making pictures, whether you do it for a living or for a hobby, get away from the computer. I look back and I just think, no, the years I've wasted sitting in front of a computer, there's been much better things to do. Go and hang out with your friends and family, make memories, go traveling, That's what you're going to remember. That this is you're always going to have fun doing this, and this is going to be the passion, and it becomes
And this is
more.
where originality comes
Yeah,
from, if you
yeah.
ask me, because if you don't experience anything else than what others have experienced and you kind of consume through their images, how can you come up with something of your own or something new? I mean, every time I go somewhere, I experience something. Like I was on a hike last Friday, or last Saturday actually, with my kids, and suddenly I saw trees that had almost no bark on them. It was just
They've
like
been stripped.
straight, and it felt so weird. And I knew if I would render it like this, everybody would take it better assets. But I filmed this, and this gave me some new ideas. And every time, going to the Netherlands, going to the to Poland, to Warsaw 2 weeks ago, and just experiencing how different those two countries are. They're like European countries, but they are different. And you only notice the differences when you're there. And it doesn't take a lot of money. You can go hiking, you can go take some photos, you can hang out
I think
with
that
your friends.
that's a great point. It's like life's not supposed to be expensive. It's meant to be. You're supposed to enjoy it. Whether it, if you've got money, great, spend it. If you don't, that when I first came to London, and back all those 100 years ago in 1992, and they're working for the Sega. I think after paying rent, etc., we had like £15 to spend for the week.
Mm.
But we had the best time of our lives. We'd go, all of our friends in the same boat. We made our own entertainment. That
Yes.
was it. Just it's just that the amount that younger people are spending these days on life is terrifying. Let me jump onto community now, and this is the final lot of my speech. So, community. I said before, getting involved helped me recover from the demise of my company, and it's really true. Um, Community is bigger than each of us. Community is selfless. You've got to help others, not for social media or to show off, but help someone else just selflessly and give back. It's like if you've got something to give, just give back. It really helps, and uh, it helps you. It helps everyone. If we are all giving and if we're all supporting somebody else without having to show off or social media it, imagine what the community would be like if we're all just supporting one another. Um, Community knows no boundaries, no borders, no gender, no language or age. It is you and me and the next generation. We all must put the work into it today, however you can, not for you and me, not for your ego, but for the future generations to benefit from. And I thought about that, and I thought, look, I don't know you if I'm meeting people who are like 24 who are phenomenal, and they're changing. I mean, you want to know about passion? I get passionate about meeting um, young people who have an exciting future and show, that they're really passionate, and they help me understand what it is that they're going to develop as a community over the years. And yes, it involves AI, and it is incredible what they're doing. I'm so excited. And we had this young woman talk at 3D London last week, and one of the old guys I worked with back in the 90s afterwards said she was phenomenal. If I was investing in someone, I'd be investing in her. She was 24, doing VR fashion, phenomenal. Um, okay, last few sentences. So most of you sit back as spectators, right? Um, which doesn't really help. And then on to say like Chaos Campus, and I don't know if Tio will agree with this, but why are there 10,000 followers on the campus if 99% of those connected don't acknowledge Tio's hard work and effort? So you got to look at the effort that Tio puts into this. As like that, I don't get why there's 10,000 people and 5,000 people aren't sending TO messages to say, this is such a fantastic group. It's like, what do you join groups for if you don't participate? I don't get it. That's my just view. So conference, then move on to conferences and meetups. So both are community activities. So I said before, humans need the contact to survive. So if you can afford it, attend. It's it's so important. It's you could be at home in your bedroom or whatever, but and think you know it all until you go along and have a chat and go, "Hey, I'm just like the rest of them. We're all in it together." So one final sentence. So how can you call this an industry or profession if we are collectively willing to roll over and let AI big tech, I said, and AI big tech nerds claim our skill for future profit? I say that again. What?
It's a rhetoric one. I mean, this is one people need to just think about.
But it is, and
Yeah.
it's that we're at that point in the profession where we are accepting that what is this the norm or is this it, fine? We're all going to pay for tokens, but then why should we accept that? Why shop around, find the best ones that work for you? I've
Yeah.
talked enough.
Yeah, it was okay. Let me just read what Ulfat said because she wrote it so beautiful. What Nigel just said is very deep. This will make me think about it for a very long time, and I feel it will change a big part of me. And I know she means it. Ulfat is somebody who is actually one of those people who makes total use of the community, and when things are said she actually reflects on them, and she changed a bit of her social behavior because of one episode that I did like last year when I
I
talked about
remember.
exactly what you
Hmm.
said, going out, living a life, and she did this, which I'm so proud of her. And I know that when she writes this she means it, and she will also be reflecting on this. Of course, Joanna says words of wisdom, and I totally agree. What's funny is that, I have prepared here a plethora of questions. And it's funny that some of the things that you said, because here I have, just as an example, I have written down, when it comes to the future, we can only speculate, but there is one thing that we'll always come back to, and it's human interaction. You just said it, and it was part of my
But
questions. Um, because you were already answered many of them. I wanted to ask you, with all of those, of the massive amount of time that you have invested in community initiatives, I wanted to know if the community was there to pick you up when you were having a downtime. But you already answered this.
let me be honest. Some people, and they know who they
Yes.
are. The majority of people are self-obsessed, and sorry community, but all they're there to self-promote and go, look at my pictures back in the 70s, right? That when your aunties and uncles, this is back in the day of you'd have, what do you call it, that you'd get your photographs develop onto slides, and you'd have that slide projector, and
Oh yeah.
they'd come back from holiday, a vacation or whatever away, and then come round to your house, and now we're going to have the slideshow from auntie and uncle who went to Australia. And as kids, you're like, oh my god, how boring! We've got to look, and here we are standing in front of Ayers Rock, and you're like, it's
Yes.
if we all do it, then what are you trying to say? To say something different, that's why I love what we have done collectively. Try to bring out the voices of interesting people and their life. And I think what again, back to the human story of that's what's interesting, not what renderer you use or what button to push. It's what makes you get up in the morning. And I think of some of the people, without naming names, you've got on the campus who haven't who have challenging lives where they live. Things are more challenging than others. The I think that's something that we've got to acknowledge globally, if it's a global community, that there are people less fortunate than you. That's what I'm meaning. You've got to support people by not by trying to charge everyone for what you do, but be selfless. Just go, hey, listen, I can help. And yeah, it's really, I don't know if that comes with age, that you actually want to get into like what you're doing. What were you doing 5 years ago or before COVID? And how did you start? Um, why did you start this?
Before, like 5 years ago, I had already started doing it. It was like in the very beginning, I was, I live in Germany, but I come from Bulgaria. I never had much, to my name. So what you described with the 50 quid that you were still having in the end of the month, I very well know the situation. So in the very beginning, of my career, I was just relying on forums to help me learn. I was a Rhino and V-Ray user back then, and there weren't any books whatsoever. And in the forums, I would go ask, and people will help me, and I was always so thankful. But I couldn't pay back because I didn't know more than them. Every time I could, sometimes I would just do different render settings and render
But were
the
you
images.
working as a visualizer or were you working as an
Yeah, I
architect?
started in 2012, but the thing is that at some point I just, I joined a group. I expected to get feedback, but I didn't. And at some point, I was just so fed up with not getting feedback because it's so bad to work on something for long and then share it and then get 5 likes and no explanation on why it's not so good. So I decided to become this person who just gives out his opinion without being asked. And I just started doing it like 6 years ago, and I
But
did it also in the VW Art Club. And at some point, I was invited to the Chaos Campus by Ivo Garcia, and I just continued doing it here. And at some point, I just pitched to Chaos that I would like to do it in a form of a show of keeping it realistic. This is how the whole format started, as a live review show, in order to to bundle it and be able to show some emotion rather than just writing texts, because the text form can give out a lot of technical stuff, but the emotion is kind of missing. So I started keeping it realistic like this. And yeah, in the meantime, I'm paid for this, for running the group, for the show.
I'm pleased
But
you said that.
sorry.
I'm pleased you said that because I think a lot of people think that your time and effort, or people who actually do this sort of community activity, is, I don't know, you've got deep pockets and you can afford to sit around and, you know,
No.
pay for it. So, but that then leads me on to, that's where big companies like Chaos and their responsibility to community and to be able to back people, yourself and Nikos and others, and what they're doing at CG Connect. It's
Yes.
sure a lot of people look at it and go, "Oh, it's Chaos," but we don't use Chaos products, and it it's it's facilitating you to allow you to actually help others, not have that agenda of, oh, let me every 3 sentences drop a Chaos product into the conversation.
I mean, we've been having almost a 2-hour show. The Chaos is you mentioned Chaos more than I, and people who are here know that for 80 episodes,
Hmm.
like this is the 80th, I've probably mentioned Chaos projects like 4 times when there was some type of sale, and they could get a good deal. There are no strings attached here, and this is what I absolutely value with Chaos, that I can do what I was doing before, but this time as a main job, or as at least as a side job, um, without having to push people to go buy projects or something. I think that Chaos simply understand that this is like this type of long term investment that I was talking about in the beginning. You can try to squeeze all the money right here, right now, and then ruin a whole business, or you can, like Chaos, try to create a strong, solid community, and over time this will pay back to you, and because a strong community will go buy your projects most likely at some point. But
It's yeah, the comes back to trust. Who do you trust? Do you trust the people that you think you know? I mean, you and I were getting to know each other, and it's, would we go on holiday? Would our families go on holiday together? It's like, it'd be nice to think maybe in the future we're getting to know each other online and socially, and same with all the people that we've seen. I think what's so important is building those relationships that we get on, we can talk renders, or I think we can talk about anything. And that's what I keep trying to push, is away from talking about tech and actually talking about life, because that's your makeup, your genetic makeup, and the finding out more about people and what makes them tick. Well, that leads me on to the I do have props. Leads me on to the magazine. The whole purpose when I started the magazine was not to talk about renders. I wanted to hear people's stories of whether they're in Colombia or all around the world, or Tunisia, and that this was fun hearing where they got to, how they got to where they are. And then it's like, how do we then as a community accelerate that person's career growth or plan of like, are they are they willing at whatever stage in life to actually start giving back and start reaching out and helping people and growing people?
Absolutely. This is what we do every Friday. As I said at some point, our live like community member introductions every Friday on Discord, where people from everywhere just come and tell their story, like their whole story. Every time I don't ask about like show us your renders, because we've seen many of the renders maybe already by this point. I always ask about the personal side as well. Where
Hmm.
did you start? What led you to where you are today? And this is also what we ask every guest here on the show. In your case, it was the whole topic. In other cases, it is no, but it was very important to hear this story, to hear about the ups and downs. This is exactly what I think is so inspiring and energizing to
Did I
people who
answer
are.
what I haven't got the channel? Have we answered questions? Or did we answer the the headline question of anything to do with AI? It's you know, are there
Well,
any? Is there
wait a
anything?
second. There are more commands first.
Okay,
There is a question by Ami. There is one interesting statement by Vieku when you were talking about those clients who were, so judgy and wanted so many corrections when it came to renders, and now they're very happy with the very first prompt result. Vieku says it's funny how the most demanding clients suddenly went to AI and are fine with inaccurate, half-done results. Just shows that the demanding part is them not being happy about paying.
so it's insane. It really is. It's so insulting. Is that the that I got another story to tell, right? So the job we did tail end of last year in the production side and the urban VFX. So it, it customer in Cyprus had come to us and took a year and a half to actually negotiate to work on the film. I couldn't believe it. I sort of thought, what's going on these days that it takes so long? Anyway, we finally got going on the project. We worked our asses off in making a great film for them. Um, threw in a whole bunch of CGIs, nice interiors and everything, because we've been around. We know, I think we know what we're doing. The detail we put into, we modeled every single piece of furniture, even though it was all exterior. We had to do all the furniture on the balconies, and then don't like repetition. So essentially, did it all. And then the marketing team I saw earlier this year at the developer started pushing out all these awful AI generated content of helicopters droopy. It was slop and absolute slop of that's what they and you think of how insulting that is to someone who's been in the game for 35 years who has sold. When we last calculated, we looked, and I think we'd worked on something like $750 billion worth of projects. So to then see some marketing team just creating, not with our work, with the work done previous to us, the CGIs, and they're making these 10-second little films that were so unrealistic and awful, and it's like, you do know this is damaging your brand, right? But maybe they don't these days. Who knows? Um, so yeah, with all the experience in the world, it still doesn't matter these days. It's client client's always right. You're not. So find your fights, live to fight another fight, move on. It's like, okay, whatever. They
Yeah, I mean, you got to learn to adapt and accept some things. Like you said, your colleague who just stopped doing the animations and just let the clients do their
It's
social
brilliant.
media.
Yeah, they're one of the world's top studios, and this is their apps. Everyone I've spoken to has a different story. It's embrace it, own it, use it, but don't let it dominate. And that's what I was meaning before by that backup plan of the reason we started vibe coding is because I don't care what AI we use. We'll exploit AI for our benefit. If Open AI go bust tomorrow, we move on to Anthropic and Claude. They go bust. We move on to the next. Don't care about their business. I'm not going to swear. It's all about you. Exploit them, use them, jump.
Yeah, of course, you owe them nothing.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
Um, a very interesting comment by Abdi. He says he's into 3D and motion graphics, just so you know. He says, well said, Nigel. As for selflessness, I think it often stems from having struggled oneself to acquire knowledge and establish a place in the field. Perhaps it comes from a desire to spare others from having to go through the same difficulties, especially today when technology makes sharing knowledge easier than ever. Just my personal opinion. And Abdi, I may say, somebody who shares a lot of his knowledge about Tyflow, rail clone, simulations, and stuff like that. So, um,
There's, I think some of the, I wanted to share today and some of the failures, like where it goes wrong, because none of us think, life goes wrong. That's what life's about, right? It's it's as a community, we're there to support your friends. We're there to, you know, selflessly reach out and go, hey, Nigel, I hear things are going wrong. What can I do to help? How can I help you get through this? That's what we all have to be prepared for now. When people start losing their jobs, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's embarrassing. You feel ashamed. You all the emotions, but it's not you. You think about the business owner whose business is going tits up. It's what they have to go through, and that was me. What I had to go through. I think this leads on to talking about a friend of both of ours who whose job um, changed. It's they were made redundant, or there were redundancies earlier this year, and we won't talk about who they are, but that person pivoted from being a visualizer to working in the design team. It was kind of like, I don't want to do this, but this is what I don't get right by a lot of the people probably watching this. How many people in the audience have architecture degrees or interior design degrees or product designer degrees? It's like, you've all trained as in a different profession. There's no shame or no reason you can't be spanning both right now. That if you look on um the three disciple not three disciple, God, so many websites, the the SiNiLab.com, and you look up some of the the people on there. There's a young woman called Rada Deliva. She's from Bulgaria. And she is smashing it as an architect, an AI architect. Um, her her renders are absolutely phenomenal. Again, she talked at Uplift London. Um, I couldn't. I mean, you check out her work. It's like, whoa, it's like Archi 9 sort of quality stuff. Reason I bring that up is she talks of rendering. She is now winning big interiors, big architectural projects through her visuals. Now, get that, right? You're all making visuals and wanting to continue making visuals for other people. She's using visuals, whether she's, like you got all your visuals. You could actually be winning architectural clients with your degree that you've turned your back on and making that is the new generation. Is they saw image making as a means to actually accelerating their young architectural careers, and they are that she's working for like EMA. All these companies around the world are coming to. She's in the mid-20s, and doing incredibly well. And that's, I don't see why any of you, if you're fantastic at image making, can't use image making as a means of actually building stuff. I said this at Dbox, to Dbox back at D2 years ago, and I said, why is Dbox just a marketing company? Why aren't you building? Why aren't you designing? Why don't you reverse the story of actually you're the ones that are selling the dream, so build the dream as well.
So this means taking the initiative.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
People are doing it, and they're doing fantastically well. And that to me is the new generation of right. So I'm not going to spend the next 5 years learning to render. I'm going to use whatever technology I can and exploit that to actually produce beautiful imagery. So the imagery that you put out on Instagram, others are putting out and winning architectural projects for it. What are you
That's
winning?
very, very, very cool and eye-opening perspective, I gotta say. I have a question here from Amit. He starts with an apology. He's like, first of all, sorry for my question, and I apologize. I don't think there is something to apologize, mate. But suppose if at this point, again, if you face a downfall, what will be your next move to do ahead? Which direction will you go? Creative direction, AI, or just retire and enjoy coffee sitting on your porch?
It's a good question, and don't have to apologize. Because I think about it all the time, right? I need to work. We all need to work. I think about it like I mentioned that Cyprus job. They came back to us after 4 months and said, "Oh, I forgot that you guys did this. We've got 4 other companies that we reached out to for quotes, but we forgot to actually ask you." Again, really insulting. Um, we didn't win the job because we put in a serious bid, and knowing full well that these 4 other companies would totally underbid us because they'd be going down an AI route. But that does open up to, this is what's happening for all of us, whether you've got experience or not. Someone's going to underbid and be cheaper. It always happens. So where does that leave me? Um, I have the software company. The software company 100% relies on you, the customer. We don't, just like chaos, the chaos doesn't survive if they don't have any customers, neither do we. And so that's, hello, that's why I'm here, right? I'm here to actually try and show I'm not an asshole. Um, it's, it's us lot in the software business are part of the community. We actually need you as much as you need us. So if, as long as the software company continues to grow, and we're a small business, we're an artist-driven business, I need to support you. I need to support the community, because if you're gone, our business is gone. That's the symbiotic relationship that we have. If you, the customer, the community disappear, hence this is also a conversation Chaos is having, then if we all disappear and we all run out of money, then we'll all become plumbers, right?
Is that a bad thing, though? I mean,
I'm going to show you a garden, right? Let me show you. This is my other passion. You want to see my garden?
oh yeah, definitely, of course.
But
This
where?
is my plan
Oh,
B.
hang on.
So,
So yeah,
oh, that's interesting garden.
hang on, plan B. Plan B. Here
Oh
we
yeah,
go. This is, oh,
this is your garden.
yeah.
Do you
So
do it on your own?
yeah, no, you've disappeared. So this was nothing before COVID. COVID came along, and we all had to close our offices and disappear, right? And and basically, my wife was like, I was doing this all day long, and she was going, unless you get out of the house, I'm going to kill you. So I disappeared out into the garden, stood there thinking, what are all these plants? What are all these weeds? It was all overgrown, and threw myself creatively into creating a if you like, a wild garden in central London. So manually dug that pond. Um, it's taken like 3 years. But this is my passion. I love it. It, I don't know how many people in the audience have gardens, and how, I'm obsessed with Nawaki, which is the Japanese art of, if like, topiary and sculpting things, and Kokidama, making little moss balls. That's great fun. So I've found this new, I'll hide that now, this new creative passion
Oh, please
for.
keep it. It was so
Oh, you
beautiful. I
like
mean,
that?
people are going crazy in the comments.
Oh, hang on.
Ulfat, I already mentioned her. She loves plants. We all know this. But the others are like, wow, this looks so amazing.
Oh,
And I gotta say, I'm not showing you my garden after seeing
no,
yours.
your garden looks fantastic. It, this is what I was trying to refer to before. Shall I move that over so you don't see? There we go.
No, no, no.
Um,
You're good.
find a. You can take your creative passion and apply that to other things. I didn't think that, creativity could actually apply to, if you like, landscape and plants. But I go out there. I mean, here I am. I look out the window, and I, I've befriended now a whole bunch of crows who are now live by building the pond. There's loads of frogs in there. You see we've got the bees, we've got the crows, we've got all the birds, and this is the other half of what I would love to. And I sort of think maybe I should go into landscaping and design, because I'm doing it on a larger scale, because it's just the complexity. And again, being an image maker, trying to think of, first of all, you've got seasons, then you've got time of day, then different flowers come out at different times of year, but you're becoming a conductor, an orchestrator of, if again, back to experience. This is an experience of, everything there is by design. Everything's been made by me, and my wife, and she'll kill me if I said it was all me. Um, but it yeah, my passion, I've slowed down by getting into creating and making bonsai. I don't know if anyone else does. It's because I'm so impatient, and that's helped me just being. And stop sharing that. Be more patient. It's great fun.
I don't have the patience for bonsai. I've tried it, but I don't know. I mean, yard work is something. I don't know. It's a different type of getting tired. When I go tired to bed in the evening after a day in front of the screen, I cannot really sleep for a while. If I go to bed after a day doing yard work, I sleep like a baby.
Because
And
you're using a different part of your mind. It's that, you know when you're creative, that that's a hobby. You're having fun doing it. When you're up against a deadline working for a client, it's not your job. You are. This is where AI should take over. We all thought AI would come along and it would be doing the boring stuff. What happened to, what was it called? Internet of Things, that the AI would be controlling what's in your fridge, and you know dealing with your bills, etc. That Where's that, right? That
yeah,
Why did it come after image making? Why did it come
yeah.
after filmmaking? It's absolutely hypocritical that it came after the creative arts, music, everything. It's come after what we love as humans and enjoy. It's Yeah, we shouldn't accept it.
No, no, this is what we consumed. I think this is what it is. And yeah, unfortunately, maybe we're also not, I don't know, strong enough, or um, don't have this type of presence where we can just say, well, this is just not like in the gaming industry. It actually works. They are pushing hard against this, and they're saying we're not using this. This is below our level, and it doesn't work there at all. The same way it works
Right,
on our side.
to a level. It's everything. Like I said, why I wanted to mention before, that the marketing, the money, follow the money. It's all they have to do is look at film industry. All you have to do is start to influence James Cameron and a few heavyweight directors who are going, you know, Scorsese, he's using it for, change people's minds, slowly win them over. And then before you know, we, we thought on television that everything copyright would be protected. Um, don't know,
Mm.
it's where we go from here. That's why I say stop being afraid of it and exploit it, use it to your advantage. Um, if you back to the job in Cyprus, and I probably shouldn't say this online. So
Don't please write this video is going to YouTube
oh
afterwards.
hell, I don't care, right? And
Oh, okay,
that
then.
I'm of the age of do not care. So because of what I'm going to say is not that bad, but so when we first quoted for the film project, and I won't give you the figure, but the client came back and knocked us down 25%. Rather than moaning and complaining, how did we still make the same profit? AI. That we still made the profit that we would have made if we'd done some of the shots manually. But like what Nick Bentley said, we took all the interior shots and we just did one still, banged out a bunch of moving shots and charged them for it. That
Yes.
if you're in
Yeah.
the business of commercial art, which I think a lot of you are, so if you work for an architect or whoever, it's different. If you're freelancing and you're basically getting paid to make imagery, you're in commercial art, that you have to make a profit, whatever means possible. So if that means taking shortcuts by using AI, do it.
Well, this was more or less what most of the presentations during the WordViz Fest were
Mm.
kind of saying. They stopped selling this one image for, let's say, €1,000. They started saying image packages or image sets for €1,000, which they still do one image, and the other, let's say, 5 images are done with AI. So they still try to get the same amount of money and they still render that one image. But based on that one image, they start rendering different whatever close-ups and whatever, but with AI, so that they don't spend the time for actually rendering another 5 images. They do them with AI. So, and they sell the package. So now it's not one image for 1,000, it's 6 images for 1,000, but it's one render and 5 AI generations based on it.
I'm pleased you started talking about this because I've got some other ideas, or what we did for business. If you want to survive in business or with your customers, I don't know how many of you have worked with a retainer, but in other industries, people are retained. At our Glowfrog business, we worked on jobs for 15 years and because we were retained. And so agencies in advertising are retained, meaning you sign a
Yes.
long-term contract. It could be a year, it could be 3 years with your customer, that you drop the rates a bit so that they don't, you think of how much money it costs them each time to go out and do the quotes and da-di-da-di-da. They much prefer to retain you, saying you are my visualizer for the next 3 years. And so what we would do is we would draw down. So we would agree to an annual fee, and then we would draw that down every month, whether we do any work or not. That's the key, and that's retained income coming in. Suddenly they come along, 3 or 4 months in, and they want a big film. That it all balances out over the year or 3 years, but most big studios that you think oh, they're incredible. That's how they survive, is they're all on retainers.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
This is
but you can do that as
marketing
a
agencies
freelance
too, as
too.
you said.
It's that way too. The client locks you in. And so you think, say, on some of our big jobs, they would be bombarded with competitors who would, oh, we've got to be much cheaper than Nigel. And they're like, we can't be asked dealing with you. We've, come back to us in 3 years' time. in that time, we're building a relationship. We're the ones having like bi-monthly meetings, telling them all about AI, the progress of what's going on, how we're doing things more efficiently. And they begin to trust you, and you're their knowledge, you're their trust. So the Wembley, I'm going to show you Wembley Park. That's the big job that we worked on to, we'll start with this one. To recently, we started in 2008 and we finished up this year. So this is Wembley Park. There's about 140 buildings in it. So we did every single building. We did all as each building came online, we did each of the interiors. So show you some pictures of those. So, these are the marketing images. It's all familiar stuff, but this is all retained. This basically years and years and years of doing this. Was it where's the aerial view? I'll do the chalk. Why are you not playing that one? Yeah, so here's the model. So it's going backwards. No, that's not playing. I'll just come back to me. It was great. It was great fun to work on. London is an incredibly competitive market. And the other thing that I learned from working in commercials and on the other side of the business is another way to secure, or what we did, and what the mill did, the VFX company, and is install yourself or one of your team members in your client's office. So
Oh yeah.
what the mill, and this is really, really common in advertising, is or used to be, is to actually if you've got yourself in each one of their offices, say in the Middle East or wherever, just get a couple of people in the developer's office, and then they're there, and they're working as a satellite. They're sort of your front end or pre-production. You're able to work more closely, ties. So think out of the box, right? Just don't do, that's what I was meaning before. Don't do what is normal to catch someone's attention, because one of the maddest things we did to get into film and TV work is because, again, that's even way more competitive in London. We printed our slides from our showreel onto 35mm film, and like a 6-foot long strip of film, because back in the early 2000s, you still had runners running around Soho, right? And the runners would basically deliver the cuts and the shots and like the Betamax tapes to all the production houses. So directors would normally be found in edit suites. So we got our 35mm film and we wrapped it up or put it in a proper printed out sort of glow frog runner bags, and we had urgent, if we were targeting a director, we'd find where they were working, and the runner would run into the reception and say, hey, listen, I know that, I don't know, Ron Howard, for example, is in here editing. He really needs this. This is one shot that's missing from what he's working on. And sounds cheesy and stupid. The amount of people we got callbacks from were going, because they'd open it up and it would be the positive film, right? I'd start looking through and going, what the hell is this? And I would have, Glowfrog on it, and then just our website, and it worked. Think out of the box.
Yeah, this is what I hear. Thinking out of the box, taking the initiative, being creative. I think it's the first way of showing that you are creative. We're always talking about creativity. The approach here what you just described was just a great example of being creative. So obviously, if you already come up with this one, you may come up with another
I
good
mean,
stuff
think
that may be useful.
what Hannes is doing with Gaussian splats. Who's playing around with Gaussian splats and thinking of different creative ways of using those, or even looking at it that graphically of you know how can you make that work to your advantage, not from a visual, just put it in a visual, but
Yeah,
to show that it's
the
point
service.
cloud. It's how do you actually work with that and have fun? This is the sort of stuff that gets you in front of customers because you're talking about something different rather than, oh look, I've got the same images that everyone else has got. And it's, are you interested? And like, you're the 100th person I've seen today. It was like, forgot your name already. It's but that person who showed me that weird thing, what was that again? Gang, break from the herd.
Yeah, standing out is, I think, crucial nowadays. I mean, it always has been, but nowadays,
But
especially.
not everyone wants to. And that's okay too.
Um, yeah, but isn't it kind of very important in the era of AI?
Yeah, but where do you fit into the team, right? So you may want to just sit there and put your headphones on and just do the work. Then
Yeah,
you've got extroverts, you, me, Joanna, people who actually don't mind being in front of a camera and talking. This is natural for us. Then you've got people who are just like, I do not want to do that. Just tell me what to do. And that's the partnership, right? That's what you as a community should be getting together. How many of you collaborate with one another? Not just because you're meant to be friends, work together as on projects. Don't I That's what I never quite got from the visual industry of why aren't you 10 of you getting together and doing a really big fun project, or that's what they do in animation, that's what they do in visual effects. They work as a team. That's what you seem to, either you want to work by yourself because you think you know better than everyone else, or but work as a team, and it's so much more rewarding. Just
yeah,
focus
it's
on the one thing that you do best, and then share it. I mean, I go right back to when I started Glowfrog, and then my first employee was a someone who was way more talented than me in 3D. That's what you always have to strive to do is to employ people who are better than you.
yeah, you know the saying, if
Yeah.
you're the smartest or the best in the room, you're in the wrong room. Go to different.
that that I guess that's my sort of, if you like, my strength as being in just working, collaborating, partnering with people that to get basically the projects that whether it's community, whether it's 24 hours of chaos or whatever. I've always worked with incredibly fun and talented people, and that's what long may it continue. So yeah, back to your original question of what would I do this, I would love to think I could continue helping the community do interesting events. We've got some nutty mad ideas, for why aren't we doing an event in the ski field, or it- where we're combining the social, that whether it's hiking or walking, and just why does it always have to be in a conference center or hall? Why can't it be in a field?
Oh, I enjoyed the Iwi so much. Have you been there?
No.
In the pub.
Mm.
It's a pub.
But it's a
Like,
pump. So the with one of our sponsors at 3D London, he's a bit of a mad scientist, invents stuff, and it brought up the idea at Glastonbury. One of the best dance tents, right, was a sustainable tent where you had a whole bunch of push bikes or cycles outside. So the sound system was powered by cycle power, and so everyone dancing inside, that it would, the faster they cycled, the louder it would get, and so it was so much
okay.
fun. I was saying, why can't we do an event, and a community event where if you like, the projectors, the tent and everything is powered by sustainable means. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we just gotta move on. I think we just have to no, we just need to just move and don't just stay. I mean, this is something I just took it with me. I wasn't sure if I will be talking about it or mention it at some point, but on Friday we were shopping with my family and we ended up in a Chinese restaurant. And as the tradition goes, we had fortune cookies in the end, and my fortune cookie actually had a fortune which one of the first times actually I liked or could relate to. And it says, "Don't be afraid to be slow, be afraid of stagnation,"
100%.
which I really, really like. And I think is very important because there are many people right now who are also, kind of fearing that they are kind of, left behind or falling behind or have a hard time keeping up. And I think you cannot keep up with everything. But just don't stand still. Just learn one thing, the next day something else, and just move ahead. This.
That 100%. So when I've talked to students, right, and I'm going to talk to, they might be in their first year or whatever, and they're so shy and like, well, how am I supposed to get work? And like, first of all, you've got to change your narrative, the value thing. It's like, so you're trying to tell me that you've only been using 3D for, let's just say, 12 months. But in reality, you started learning 3D when you were 14. You were learning Blender, playing with Blender when you were 12. So really, you've got 8 years of experience, not 1 year. So that's the sort of thing that you and I, and if we were standing chatting to someone, and it's it's the confidence to actually feel that you have a voice and still have something to talk about, whether you've got 1 year's experience or 30 or whatever. It's we're all passionate for the same thing. And as long as you've got a great story to tell, then that's great. you know Back to what I was saying about the young people coming along to 3D London. It's incredible to hear their stories. Different.
Yeah.
I don't get what they're doing with, say, like AI or anything, but I want to learn.
Yeah, you're also never stagnating, I see. There's a question about what we just talked about by Amit here, which is, how do you think it's a tricky one. I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. How do you think one can do that, be different than the rest? Should one research about the company whom he or she wants to work for and provide them with solutions? But they might already have that. So what is the trick to be different in a world of tough competition?
Well, I think for a start, you're halfway there with what you asked for. It's do your research, right? Um, the I won't. I know I like to tell stories. We had this one person, right, who years ago, I would get about, I don't know, 50 CVs a week come through the door or being mailed or emailed, and then we would. And a lot of companies do this. We build up a profile on you, on the person that would go on file of like, it's Emmett again. It's like, here's the next email. We can now, you may not get the job straight away, but we can now go back over that and see your progress, what you've been doing. Now with AI, I guess that those profiles that companies are building on you each time you submit, what worked and what was so professional in VFX are people who would every 6 months would just drop you a little email to say, hey, listen, I just want to update you on what I'm doing. I've just had a great 6 months at such and such company. I learned this. And they were the ones that you're like, hey, this person's been a professional. That they're not they're not going, oh, I need a job. They're telling me about their career, and you start following them through. These people are now, leaders in the industry because they started out right from being a student, being responsible and actually treating the way that they communicate, whether they've got a week's experience or whatever, is they weren't going, have you got any work? They were saying, this is what I'm doing. This is what I've learned. This is hey, did you, and then refer that back to the company, right? So if you want to work with, I don't know, Brick Visual, for example, what do you know about Brick Visual? If I was Brick Visual and you were just going, give me a job, I'd be like, no way. But if you said, hey, I love that project that you did last year, that was fantastic. I really like the way that you did X, Y, Z. Tell me more. How did you do that? I would love to learn, were there any, start a dialogue. Don't ask for work. Start, because like Theo and me, we don't mind talking. We would love to actually share our knowledge. And this is an interview technique of get them talking about their business, not that you've got to remember, think of all the interviews you might have been to, and they'll sit there stone cold silent and make you talk. Interview technique. Flip it on its head and start asking them questions about their business. And suddenly they're going, hey, this person has done his research. They know about, question, why is it that, you did X, Y, and Z project of like, I can see there was a real challenge to how you did that, given the geopolitical situation or whatever. And then they're going, this person's interested in our business. It's just conversation.
Yeah, it also shows it shows interest, it shows respect. Personally, I'm not like a huge studio, but when I receive applications, those who don't like, alone in the studio, right? So those who don't address me personally, didn't do the research to figure out that it's me, I just throw them away.
Throw
I
them
don't
away.
look at them because this is respectless, but I would engage in a conversation with some, like if they see that they're very young, like coming out after school, I would write an email, tell them to be personal, to do their research and stuff. But those who are older and should know better,
You just raised a really good point that a lot of educators are talking about. So in this world of age of AI, if you're sending as Tio says, if you're wanting to reach out personally to someone, don't use GPT to write write it personally, spelling mistakes and all. It, to me, you again, filter. It's like just slop. Hey, this person, I know what you're trying to say because it's coming from you. It's coming from your heart. So you think of how in education, how difficult, like architectural students, how difficult it is for them to now evaluate students so in the UK, a lot of universities are made up of 60% foreign students, or more. So what's happened in the AI age up until now, it was quite easy to tell that this student, I know who the student is because the English isn't the first language. It's not quite great, but I know it's you. Now it's all perfect, and they're going, this isn't even written by this person because it's written in basically Shakespeare prose, and it's like, how am I supposed to evaluate who that person is?
yeah,
And so,
yeah, yeah,
and,
the same as before when parents would write, let's say, the application letters for the kids or something. Just
I got
you
another
want to
one.
know who the person is with all their
Huh,
imperfections. Everybody's
huh.
not perfect, so it's okay.
There's one more thing to add to that, right? That this story, I can't remember when, years ago, um, when we received an application with, I don't know, let's say 4 or 10 images attached to them. Well, I went, it got through to me. It said, Nigel, you might want to look at this. And two of the images in this person's portfolio were direct rip-offs of our work. They'd just gone on our website, they just copied them, and they were claiming them as theirs. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna call this person in for an interview. I know it's a bit cruel, maybe, but we called them in, and this was a
Petty for sure.
lesson on copyright. And this arrogant young boy came in he let him talk about everything, and they said, oh, tell me about these two images, and he just started talking about them, and until I let him finish, and I brought it up on screen and said, you ripped us off. you're now going around other studios claiming this is your work. It's like, how do you think our customer or client are going to feel about this confidential, or it wasn't by then, we'd put it on our website, but and I said, rather than reaching out to us and saying, I really love your work, I'd love to try and, copy it. And then we would have helped them, and we would have, would have really gone, hey, that's great. We like, we'll teach you how we did it. To try and claim someone else's copyright. You really think globally that we don't all know each other, and you're going to get struck off. It's just cardinal rule. Don't try and steal other people's work.
And honestly, honesty can get you a long way.
No,
I mean, if he had reached out and said, you know what, I love your work so much that I reproduced two of your
it
renders
wasn't
to
even a
show that
great.
I can
It wasn't even a
code up.
great project. Wait,
Yeah, but
I think that
this could be an entry point, putting the foot into the door and starting a conversation like, hey, I learned from you. I reproduced your work to learn from it and stuff like this. This could have started a conversation between you, but
I okay. What do I want to get from this today? And it's, if any of you want to reach out to me, I'm welcome. I'd welcome you to reach out. That you'd be so surprised how many of you actually don't. And it's like that. That's what shocked us over the years. So that's a leading story of one of my good friends. Right, that years ago, when she was at university and she was doing English, and she wanted to be a script writer. So she decided that, I don't know, it was, I can't remember what year it was, but she wanted to work with James Cameron. So what did she do? She wrote to him. And it's, this is it. You got to have the balls to actually just reach out to whoever. And she went through his agent, and guess what? He wrote back. He wrote back and said, "Hi, Tabitha. Yeah, that, that if there's always room for script writers. People generally in this world are friendly, and they're going to respond if, as Tio says, if you're respectful and aren't just begging for work, then we're going to try and help you."
yeah, and to quote a Bulgarian footballer, which happens for the first time in my life, he said, "Who plays wins. Who doesn't
Yeah,
play cannot win." It's just stupid, but it's reality. It's true.
it's
Um,
that's why you can't get jealous of other people, because you don't know how much work, you don't know the work they put in to get to where they are. And it's my little story of ups and downs and everything. I've worked my ass off all my life, and to get to where I am, and I've still got a long way to go, right? And
I
so
hope so.
put the work in.
There is a comment by Ines who joined us in the meantime. Hello, my dear. Every conversation with Nigel gets me thinking about so much. This man is something else. I'm lucky to have him in my corner. Yeah, screw you. I envy you, but yeah. Joanna says, totally, Ines, he is a treasure, and I'm thankful every day for everything he has done for me. And Ines agrees, same here, always thankful. Wonderful ladies. I'm just joking, of course, dear Ines. I would also love to have Nigel somewhere around me, but also you too. So thanks for those fantastic words, I would say. And Nigel, I think we can talk for 5 hours or something, but I think it's maybe time to summarize.
Crank.
Usually in the end of the show, I ask my guests to drop a message for the Chaos Campus. You already did with your speech previously, so maybe we can summarize, or you can summarize how so how do you survive a career with ups and downs, and are ups and downs normal and to be expected in every career, would you say?
I think in life, not a career. Like, so you think of how privileged you are to be working in this business, to be a creative. Think of all your friends who aren't creative. Everyone's creative in a way, but you're creative every day. You sit down and make imagery out of nothing, out of pixels. That is a privilege. It is something treasure, and it's something to be really, really proud of. It's whether you do it on a computer or do it by hand or painting or photography. It's a craft, and it's we you know for years I've campaigned to or lobbied, let's say, to things like, why aren't we recognized? Why isn't the industry recognized outside of our closed circle? It's not recognized by universities. It's not. So I met with a UK minister and minister of culture to say, visualization, not just architects. You've got product. You've got there's automobile. The 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 global visualization industry has contributed billions to. You think every car is 3D. So why aren't we recognized? It's you know no one has an answer. Back to archviz. Why is it that 30 years later we're still pushing for acknowledgement from the architecture or interior or the design industry of our contribution to their success? Um, I don't think I would like you as the next generation to continue that battle, to continue that that push for recognition. I've done it for 30 years. It's your time to push for it. It's it would be a real shame to think that, if you like, the people that influence me to get into doing this, and the people that you'll influence to follow you, um, won't actually receive, if you like, some form of recognition for what it is that we contribute. When was the last time you walked into a gallery and saw a outside of our own community and a beautiful, beautiful printed CGI image? Doesn't
It,
happen. Never.
oh, and so many industry actually depend on what we do, even the medicine industry,
Yeah.
the marketing, architecture, and all of those things. But we're not recognized. We're like expendables. I don't know. It's just
It's
like,
invisible. It's because it's an invisible industry. Why I said before that your customers or your clients hate you, um, it goes back to they don't. No one wants to acknowledge that they needed us. I'm going to say needed, past tense, to actually get across their ideas. It was the shortcomings of their customers, the end client, not being able to read 2D drawings, not being able to forgetting about like understanding what a watercolor is. Model making, 100% love model making, and it's just the intricacies of beautiful tactile models that go back centuries and centuries, right? Um, we've come along as perspective artists and then growing into the sort of embracing the photography sense of things. The business model, I don't know if you've ever talked about on the campus, that I really admire is what IKEA have done, and the IKEA story, the IKEA communications of. And then I don't know if you know about the whole IKEA communications. Did you ever get the big, massive IKEA catalog that
of
you know
course.
everyone had one in the house, right? And so years ago, it used to be they used to employ 800 photographers. They had, I think it was 8 football. The studios were like 8 football pitch size studios that they would mock up every single room. They'd photograph it. It, you know, phenomenal setup. Long came V-Ray. Along came, CGI, and they went, "Hang on, this is a cost-effective way now of actually can we move some of the imagery in the catalog over to CGI?" And they proved that they can. What do they do? Do they go, get rid of all the photographers? No. What do? They retrained them into 3D. So their 3D team were all photographers. They came along, and then suddenly the quality, because they had the photographic skill, what we saw in the IKEA catalog was photographic. Everything about it was photographic. They were utilizing those photography skills. Now the medium that they were shooting in was CGI. Fast forward to more recently, what's happened is IKEA have, with AI, things have shifted and changed again. So a lot of that team is downsized. What did they get rid of them? No, they retrained them all as interior designers. Now that interior design side of IKEA is bringing in €1.5 billion. Tell me an architectural firm or an interior design firm that comes anywhere close to that sort of money.
Yeah.
That's it's,
I mean,
the biggest architects in the world are 10 times less. So all they're doing is they're using that skill set that you all have, and they're repurposing that. They've gone back. That's why I mentioned before about doing more design work yourselves, because the skill that you've got is it's untapped. It's whether you've come from photography into CG and then into design. It's so valuable.
absolutely agree. And this is a very inspiring example of how things could get if one is smart, though, because I remember when we lived in Stuttgart, we lived in the same apartment for let me see, 2000, so like 9 years, oh no, 12 years in Stuttgart, and our so the money that we paid on a monthly base, the rent, wasn't like the people who rented out the apartment, they could make it rise the rent, I think 3 or 4 times within the limit, within the time that we lived there, but they didn't because they trusted that they have something, secure on their side, somebody who looks after their apartment. And I think some people who don't only care about money here and now, but only can see the long perspectives, like the people who were in IKEA who retrained the photographers to be 3D artists and then retrain them to be interior designers, are doing like this. This is similar to what's happening with the retainers. You have somebody you trust to help you as a partner. Whereas how many clients of us behave now is like we were this inconvenience on the way from the architecture to selling it to the final clients that they have to put up with and pay. But now that AI is here, they can just skip this step and do it on their own instead of asking, let's say, the former 3D artist to become the AI artist who helped them with stuff.
So that sort of, that I've written articles on LinkedIn and all this about, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see stuff I've written in the past. And back to the value thing of what it is that you offer is like, are you transactional? Are you selling a service? Because a service is negotiable, and I'm gonna, you're selling the service, they're selling the service. So I'm going to shop around for the best service, like we do online. If you're going to buy something, you'd shop around. If you fit into that business model, that's all you're going to get. But if you change to become an artist, it'll become and what would the word be? Commodity? No, yeah, an artist has value, right? Because you're buying the person. You're you're investing in that person because you believe in their story, what it is that's because that means that I can sit around with my friends at a dinner party or whatever and look at they go, hey, I love that painting on the wall. Where did you get that? And say, oh, that's done by Tio. He's this great guy out of Germany. And I'm going to talk about him, not talk about, the look at the oil paint on this. It's got a really nice sort of gouache sort of look to it. And who talks about paintbrushes and paints when you talk about art? You talk about you've invested in this person, and you can do the same thing with CGI or the CGI artists. I think of Vittorio, who now he's a highly, highly awarded 3D artist who moved into also doing, oil paints and which is there's a few people, there's some other people in Ukraine who are doing that, which I think is super exciting, where you're setting up the framework in CG and then you're using that almost as a projection to now start getting into the manual side of artwork. That is, people love that. It's because it's artwork. So
Yes,
again,
absolutely.
think out of the box of what it is that you're offering. Who out there is actually doing, and there are a few traditional artists in the architectural painting or in the true photorealism movement. If you know some of the work out there, that but yeah, try it. If you're into painting, use CGI to set things up, and then go for it with your chalks and charcoals and have. I mean, I want to see in a year's time some of you doing some really creative things. That other things I say to students is use your phone and do things like stop motion. That they when I talk to students and they all want to jump straight into the computer, and it's like, no, what we're going to do first is we're going to go out and we're going to use our phones as a creative tool. That's a 4K screen there that you've got all sorts of apps that you can actually be using and messing around with as a image maker or a filmmaker. Make stuff that if you canvassed everyone who watches this of how many people, once they turn the monitors off at the end of the day, do you switch off your creativity, or do you continue? By me, I go out and do the gardening or play around or come up with crazy, let's do this event or not. It's like, what do you do that's creative?
I think we'll need a second episode or a continuation of this one.
I can't
Not now,
believe it's
but
been 3 hours. That's
no, yeah, this really happens, and they show people know it. But there is another episode or another live session starting in like literally 2 minutes on the school
Look at
community
that.
of our friend Abdi.
Forrest Gump's
Which,
shorter.
yeah, exactly. Here he is. This was Nigel. This was truly amazing. Not only sharing all the teachings and lessons that you've gotten from life and from hardships with us, but also, your genuine point of view on like everything. I think we can talk for hours here, and I really wish that many people from our community can get to meet you in person, to talk to you in person. um,
Well, it's
I
been,
hope that someday there will be a Chaos Campus meetup or something like
well, let's
this.
organize it. They will do it in Tunisia or somewhere, Morocco or
I think it would be in Mumbai, judging by
Mumbai. That's
how active
perfect. Yeah, 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 yeah. Lovely.
Amit is already.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the lack of enthusiasm to do this. It's, as always, the lack of financial means, because putting people from all over the world at one and the same place is kind of expensive.
So
But for now, we
don't
have the
don't be
campus.
afraid to crowdsource that either.
That's yeah. I usually am, but
No, I'm meaning to individuals to crowdsource yourself to get a bunch of people to send as an artist. Now you remember you're not a service, you're an artist, to say, I need to go to Mumbai and I'm going to record that, and this is what benefit you're going to get by sending me there.
yeah,
It
this is
works.
this is a fantastic idea. So please show up on the campus, share your ideas here with us. Let's see what we can do, because you know we need your wisdom here. We can totally profit from it, and we really enjoyed. Not talking only about myself, but about all the people that are still with us 3 hours later. Um,
So I would like
and
to briefly say thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me and to you. And it's I like the beginning stuff. I find it quite sometimes difficult to. Well, I don't really like to talk about it, but it's been really nice to share with you. And I thought this was the one platform I could actually do it amongst friends and talk about it. And I really look forward to seeing your success and hearing your stories next.
we really appreciate you doing this. And my friends, thank you for sticking with us for 3 hours. And reach out to Nigel. He's open for conversation. He told you this, right? Reach out, ask questions, share your ideas. You have so much a fortune of wisdom here. Use it. Come on.
Well, also,
Uh,
I'm happy to chat, as you can tell. Um,
yeah,
don't be
please.
scared. Don't be shy. You never know what could come from chatting to some old guy. Right, that's it. Lovely to see you.
That's it.
Lovely to see you. But
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Nigel. Next episode, July 21st. It will be the last one before my vacation. Topic, I still don't know. Maybe we can get Vittorio to join us. It would be a very nice continuation of
that would be
today's
great.
topic.
He's an incredibly nice guy.
I already spoke with him.
Mm.
It's just a matter of when, not if. He will join us for sure, and it will be totally inspiring. Let's see if we can make it work for the next time. And until then, you know the drill. Stay safe,
So
be healthy, keep it real, and rock on, my friends. Much love. Goodbye. Ciao, ciao.